Chapter 48. The dozen of harmonious spirit female cultivators behind them were all Purple Yin's concubines. The 17 of them had one thing in common. Their bodies were still intact and their primordial yin was still there. This was very difficult to achieve in the evil sect. After all, the women of the evil sect didn't care much about chastity. But they belonged to Purple Yin. Purple Yin cultivated these women as cauldrons in order to pluck their yin to nourish his yang when he broke through to the nascent soul realm. Purple Yin's current cultivation was still a distance away from the half-step nascent soul realm, so it wasn't the time to pluck them yet. That was why these women were able to maintain their virginity. These women were all excellent cauldrons. Since these female cultivators dared to attack Ning Fan didn't mind taking them as his cauldrons. Those who became Ning Fan's cauldrons were his enemies. This would never change in their lives. Ning Fan's eyes contained the murderous intent of an immortal emperor. It made the 17 female cultivators feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. When Ning Fan used the ice rainbow and turned invisible, Shui Ling and Yu Ling felt a chill on their backs. A strong sense of crisis came without warning. They didn't expect that this seemingly harmless young man would have such killing intent. Formation. Shui Ling's face was cold. After all, she was older. She made a prompt decision and ordered the 15 harmonious spirit female disciples behind her to form the formation. The 15 female cultivators hurriedly circulated their magical power and formed the formation with Shui Ling and Yu Ling as the eye of the formation. The 17 of them could form an enchantment formation. Once the formation was formed, they could even fight against an intermediate gold core cultivator. But they were still one step too late. Ning Fan wouldn't let the female devils form the formation. His speed was too fast. Suddenly, an icy light appeared in front of Yu Ling, who was wearing a white dress, was performing hand seals, preparing some kind of magic technique. Suddenly, she saw a ray of icy light appearing in front of her and Ning Fan's silhouette appeared. Her expression changed and she struck out with her palm, hitting Ning Fan's chest. This palm strike was executed in a hurry. Although Yu Ling was an early gold core female cultivator, she was nurtured by old devil Purple Yin as a cauldron. She didn't have any battle experience. Plus, she had consumed too many pills, so her chi was weak. Even so, a palm imbued with magical power was not a problem to kill a harmonious spirit cultivator. However, silver light flashed around Ning Fan's body. After taking the attack head-on, he remained unscathed. At the same time, a cold glint appeared on his face. He pointed his yin-plucking finger at Moon Spirit's neck and collarbone 17 times. 17 streams of yin energy entered Moon Spirit's body. In an instant, her magic power was in chaos. Her breathing was ragged and her face was flushed red. Her entire body was hot and unbearable. She said angrily and shyly, You actually used the bewitching art." A dignified early gold core female cultivator was hit by 17 yin-plucking fingers and fell towards the clouds. Ning Fan waved his left palm and the cauldron ring emitted a dark light, sucking the defenseless moon spirit into the red misty space. Bing Ling felt a chill in her heart. She realized that she had underestimated Ning Fan by a huge margin. Ning Fan's combat strength was terrifying. Perhaps he could even protect himself against an early gold core expert. As for him and his sister, their magical power was shallow and they lacked experience in fights. They could barely win against a peak harmonious spirit cultivator, so they had no chance of winning against Ning Fan. Damn it! Let's go together and kill him to save little sister Moon Spirit. Bing Ling and Moon Spirit were blood sisters. Her heart was in chaos when she saw her sister was captured. From this point, it could be seen that this woman's mental state was too weak. If it was Lu Nanzi or Nanyang Zi, both of them would have a heart of steel during fights. They would never give up hope of winning until the last moment. In her fury, Bing Ling even forgot old devil Purple Yin's instructions. She came to capture Ning Fan, not to kill him, but at this moment, her heart was in a mess. How could she remember the old ancestor's order? She took out a hairpin from her hair without hesitation and threw it towards Ning Fan. It turned into a sharp red light and pierced forward like a meteor. Early mid-rank magical treasure. Ning Fan's eyes flashed. He patted his storage pouch and took out a flying knife that was as black iron. It was the early mid-rank magical treasure he snatched from Yan Zhuiyun the other day, the moon-chasing flying knife. With Ning Fan's current magical power, it was extremely difficult for him to use an early mid-rank magical treasure. He couldn't use an early mid-rank magical treasure at all. Otherwise, he could just casually take out an upper-rank magical treasure from the 10 sects and kill an early gold core expert with ease. After taking out the moon-chasing flying knife, Ning Fan activated the mysterious gold hair band again. He became invisible and sneak-attacked Bing Ling without looking at the collision of the two magical treasures. His magical power was still much weaker than Bing Ling's. Even if they both used an early mid-rank magical treasure, Bing Ling's hairpin only needed one strike to knock the moon-chasing flying knife to the ground. However, she didn't have time to be happy. She immediately activated the immortal cloud and flew backwards, knowing that Ning Fan was going to sneak attack her. She didn't expect that Ning Fan was waiting for her in the path of retreat. His plucking finger rained down on Bing Ling's jade-like back. Dozens of forces entered her body. Bing Ling felt her body boiling hot. She lost her magical power and fell into Ning Fan's arms. Her pink face was filled with anger. You dare to use your bewitching technique on me. I am the concubine of old ancestor Purple Yin. If you dare to touch me, old ancestor Purple Yin will shred you into 1,000 pieces. Humph. You still dare to say such harsh words after falling into my hands. You really don't know the meaning of death. Ning Fan's plucking finger landed on Bing Ling's forehead, completely confusing her mind. At the same time, he waved his left arm and put her into his cauldron ring. With the 2 gold core experts gone, the remaining 15 harmonious spirit female cultivators were much easier to deal with. From Ning Fan's sudden attack to the capture of Bing Ling and Yu Ling, it only took a moment. The 15 harmonious spirit female cultivators had weak magical power and ordinary minds, so they didn't have time to react. When they saw that their leader was captured, they were terrified to death. How could they still remember to capture Ning Fan? They jumped onto the immortal cloud and fled in all directions. Unfortunately, their speed was only at the harmonious spirit realm. How could they escape from Ning Fan's ice rainbow art? The corner of Ning Fan's mouth curved into a sneer. It was impossible for Ning Fan to let these evil women go. He reported to Old Devil Purple Yin. He jumped into the ice light and chased after each of the beautiful female cultivators. He mercilessly used the plucking finger and fiercely pointed at them. Then, all of them were put into the cauldron ring. Ning Fan only chased for a few li. None of the 15 harmonious spirit female cultivators escaped. Returning to the place where the fight started, Ning Fan put away the hairpin and flying knife. He looked at the cauldron ring on his left wrist and sneered. The 17 female cultivators who chased after him were all a motley crew. Even the 2 gold core female cultivators couldn't compare to Yuchi in terms of life and death. This was a cauldron that was cultivated in a greenhouse. Magical power wasn't everything. Cultivation wasn't everything. In the cultivation world, the weak triumphed over the strong. There were many cases of the weak defeating the strong. Old Devil Purple Yin probably underestimated Ning Fan. That's right. If it was any other harmonious spirit cultivator, even a peak harmonious spirit cultivator wouldn't be able to resist the capture of these female cultivators. Moreover, if he continued to move forward and encountered an ambush in front of him, even a gold core old devil with rich experience wouldn't be able to escape. Purple Yin didn't expect Ning Fan to have a heaven-defying divination technique and foresee that someone was going to capture him. Purple Yin didn't expect that Ning Fan's combat strength was far beyond the intermediate harmonious spirit realm. If he knew that Ning Fan was Black Devil Ning, the ruthless man who killed a harmonious spirit cultivator with a sword and a gold core cultivator with a fist, he wouldn't be so reckless and send a group of concubines to capture Ning Fan. Unfortunately, Purple Yin was destined to miscalculate. Because Ning Fan had successfully deceived Purple Yin. Evil cultivators must know how to deceive. Meaningless battle. These female cultivators are too weak. Ning Fan withdrew his sneer and sighed with an expressionless face. This was the reason why he didn't let Ji He go to Sinister Sparrow's sect. After dual cultivation, Ji He was already a level 8 vein opening expert. But with Ji He's pure personality, even a level 1 vein opening evil cultivator could use unorthodox methods to trick Ji He. Ning Fan didn't want anything to happen to Ji He. He wouldn't hesitate even if Ji He had never stained her hands with blood or killed anyone in her entire life. It's enough for me to kill. Humph, Extreme Yin Gate, Purple Yin Evil Child, I, Ning Fan, will remember this debt. However, thank you for your gift. I will accept the 17 cauldrons. This was a barren mountain, not a good place for plucking. The 17 female cultivators were hit by the Yin plucking finger and were thrown into the cauldron ring. They had fainted in the red mist, so he wasn't in a hurry to pluck them. He would slowly pluck them after arriving at Sinister Sparrow's sect. Ning Fan calculated with his fingers and found out that there were still people of Extreme Yin Gate lying in ambush 10 miles ahead. He quietly released his spirit sense but didn't dare to go too far. He could sense that there was a grand formation within a few miles ahead. There were almost 100 powerful chi hidden in front of him. He withdrew his spirit sense and frowned. There were too many people lying in ambush in front of him and there was a grand formation. He wasn't sure that he could kill all the disciples of Extreme Yin Gate in front of him. He knew that the reason why he could kill 17 female cultivators was because of the overbearing Yin plucking finger. He cultivated the yin-yang transformation, which allowed him to fight against female cultivators with a higher realm. He wasn't afraid of women. Once he broke through to the void fragmentation realm, all the female cultivators in the 9 great immortal worlds would run away when they saw him. Most of the people lying in ambush ahead were male cultivators. There were even a few gold core old monsters among them. He didn't have a high chance of winning against them. He could still protect himself if it was a one-on-one fight, but he had no chance of winning against them. Avoid their sharp edge. Ning Fan was expressionless. He didn't use the ice rainbow art but took out the 3 marks immortal cloud that he had plundered before. He used the immortal cloud flying escape and turned invisible, heading towards Sinister Sparrow's sect. This incident was also a lesson for Ning Fan. Although the speed of the ice light of the ice rainbow art was fast, it was too dazzling. It wasn't suitable for ambushing. If he used the immortal cloud flying escape technique and carefully left Ning City, he probably wouldn't be tracked. Through the events that happened tonight, Extreme Yin Gate and Purple Yin Devil Child were added to the list of people that Ning fans must kill. It would be impolite not to reciprocate. When his cultivation base was strong enough, he would go and annihilate Extreme Yin Gate. He might not necessarily lose to old monster Purple Yin in playing dirty. Now, he had hundreds of thousands of immortal jades in his storage pouch. As long as he laid out a grand formation around Extreme Yin Gate and Heaven Separation Sect would have the same ending. In a valley 10 li away, nearly 100 experts of Extreme Yin Gate were hiding. There were 70 10th level vein opening experts, 20 harmonious spirit experts and 5 gold core experts. The leader was an intermediate gold core old monster named Old Monster GMO, an intermediate gold core old monster of Extreme Yin Gate. Strange, why hasn't Ning Fan appeared yet? Why haven't Bing Ling and Yu Ling appeared either? Could it be that something has happened to them? Impossible. That Ning Fan is rumored to have extraordinary eyesight and is good at identifying magical treasures, but that's all. A mere intermediate harmonious spirit expert can't escape from 2 gold core experts, but why do I feel a trace of uneasiness in my heart? GMO and the experts of Extreme Een Gate waited for a long time in the valley. When the night faded, Ning Fan still hadn't appeared. He knew that something had happened. He took out the sound-transmitting jade talisman to contact Bing Ling and Yu Ling, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get in touch with the two girls. All of a sudden, his expression changed dramatically. How could he not know that Bing Ling and Yu Ling had fallen into Ning Fan's trap? Humph. Old ancestor sending these two girls here is really a hindrance. I don't know what kind of trouble they are in, but I can't use the sound-transmitting jade talisman to contact me. Forget it, the sky is already bright. I think that Ning Fan has already gone to Sinister Sparrow sect via another route. It's impossible to catch him now. It was better to send someone to search for the two girls first and rescue them. After all, these two girls are gold core cauldrons that old ancestor has spent countless resources to cultivate. If I lose them, old ancestor will certainly be furious and won't forgive me easily. Old monster G Mo's face darkened. He ordered the experts to disperse and search for the two girls. He had never thought that the two girls would be captured by Ning Fan. 2 gold core experts and 15 harmonious spirit experts were captured by a mere intermediate harmonious spirit youth. This was too absurd. Unfortunately, old monster GMO couldn't find the two girls, and old ancestor Purple Een must be feeling heartache after losing his 17 virgin concubines. What's more, because of what happened tonight, Extreme Een Gate had offended someone that it could never afford to offend. Chapter 49. Unfortunately, this wasn't a good place. It was a famous evil sect in Yu County, Sinister Sparrow sect. The cultivators who came and went either turned into streams of light or rode strange beasts as they whistled through the mist. Every time a cultivator entered the valley, he or she would be stimulated by the cold mist. It was clearly the season of spring, but the fog in Dark Sparrow Valley gave off a cold and gloomy feeling to people's souls. A young man in white robe and black cloak leisurely followed the crowd through the mist and entered Dark Sparrow Valley. His figure didn't reveal any of his cultivation, so no one paid attention to him. However, the moment he entered the mist, his eyes flashed and he smiled. What a cold and gloomy chi! It's not the coldness of ice and snow, but the coldness of the divine soul. Interesting. Is this the wonder of the profound Een chi? Among the heavenly frost cold chi, it is ranked 7th. It can freeze the divine soul. No, to be precise, once the profound Een chi is devoured, the cold chi will unknowingly improve the strength of the divine soul of the cultivator. This thing is a treasure, but I wonder where it is hidden. The black Een chi must be extremely hard to steal. After all, Master has been in Sinister Sparrow sect for 40 years, but he didn't manage to steal any black Een chi. If it was easy to steal, he would have already stolen it. In fact, what the young man cared about the most wasn't the profound Een chi itself, but the Yin Yang locket in his dantian. It was as if there was something here that interested the locket. This young man was Ning Fan, who came all the way here. He didn't cover his face, didn't reveal his murderous intent, and didn't show his cultivation. He had a thin physique and a bright smile, just like a mortal's sun. After entering 10 miles of the mist, the road became narrow and there were even more Sinister Sparrow sect's evil cultivators patrolling. The harmonious spirit old monsters that were flying in the sky also landed on the ground and didn't dare to fly anymore. Otherwise, they would be attacked by the patrolling experts. But in the sky, there were a few shining ships that continued to fly without landing. Even the experts of Sinister Sparrow sect didn't dare to stop them. Gold Core experts. There were many Gold Core old monsters from other sects who came to Sinister Sparrow sect to watch the disciple recruitment ceremony. Sinister Sparrow sect's disciple recruitment ceremony was held once every 10 years, which was a rare occasion. Now that the Heavenly Beast sect was destroyed, Sinister Sparrow sect had become the #1 evil sect in Yu Country. They needed to know how many talented disciples Sinister Sparrow sect would receive this year. A Gold Core expert had an illustrious status. Even a sect as strong as Sinister Sparrow's sect would not dare to neglect them. Ning Fan halted his steps and raised his head to look at the sky. He thought that if he took out the 7 apricot voyage ship, he might be able to travel unhindered in Sinister Sparrow's sect. However, as soon as this thought arose, he shook his head and suppressed it. The 7 apricot voyage ship was too ostentatious. He came to Sinister Sparrow's sect to steal the mysterious Yin Qi, so it was better to be low-key. Although Ning Fan had the halo of Old Monster's disciple and Lan Mei's husband, he was destined to be in the limelight. While Ning Fan was shaking his head, a burly man in linen robe walked towards him with a like-minded expression. Ayaya, my dear friend, do you also look down on immortals? I, Yun Lai, also look down on immortals. Why are immortals so high and mighty? Why are they superior to others? However, I still want to cultivate. Otherwise, I will always be inferior to others. This feeling is really fucking confusing. The young man named Yun Lai had a rather distinctive appearance. He had an upturned nose, a charcoal face like the bottom of a wok, curly hair, and a red beard. He was 8 feet tall. His appearance was burly, but his expression was somewhat frivolous. If this frivolous expression fell on a handsome young master like Ning Fan, perhaps it would be elegant, but when it fell on the face of this ugly burly man, it was a little ugly and comical. However, Ning Fan didn't have the intention to look down on this burly man. His expression didn't change at all. You can't judge a book by its cover. Ning Fan didn't care about beauty or ugliness. What he cared about was that this burly man's contemptuous expression towards immortals was very similar to his expression half a year ago. There was no fairness in this world. Only by adapting to the laws of the cultivation world could one survive. This was the sorrow of every cultivator. A few vein-opening cultivators at the side sneered when they heard the arrogant words of the ugly man, belittling immortals. However, when the ugly man glanced at them, they felt a chill down their spine and quickly shut their mouths. The passers-by were secretly shocked. Who was this burly man? Why was his aura so frightening? My dear friend, how do you view immortals? How do you view mortals? The ugly man named Yun Lai didn't care about those vein-opening cultivators. He pointed at the gold core voyage ship in the sky with a disdainful expression. His question was naturally directed at Ning Fan. Ning Fan couldn't see through Yun Lai's cultivation, but Yun Lai could see through Ning Fan's with just a glance. Ning Fan's eyes shrunk. This ugly man's cultivation was somewhat unfathomable. He gave Ning Fan a feeling that he was much stronger than Sinister Sparrow and the others. A nascent soul expert. You country didn't have any nascent soul experts. This expert must have come from another country. Ning Fan was neither servile nor overbearing when he saw the gold core voyage ship. Yun Lai liked this expression. On the other hand, Ning Fan didn't show any disdain towards Yun Lai's ugly appearance. Yun Lai also admired this kind of temperament. That was why he paid attention to Ning Fan and asked such a question. Cultivation is an insurmountable mountain. Immortals are people who stand on the mountain. Cultivation is a cage that imprisons human nature, and mortals are people who are trapped in the cage. If they break free from the cage of heaven and earth, mortals can become immortals. If they remain stubborn, immortals can become mortals. In my eyes, Gold Core Realm is far from becoming immortals. At least, in front of those peerless figures, they can't be called immortals. The image of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos appeared in front of Ning Fan's eyes. He could shatter stars with one finger and reverse the flow of stars with one breath. Only those with such great magical power were qualified to become immortals. Not even Moksha Emperor was qualified. Ning Fan's body had a pride. It wasn't arrogance, but unyielding. As soon as he finished speaking, he cupped his fists towards Yun Lai and left. He didn't have the intention to continue the conversation. As for Yun Lai, he didn't follow the usual etiquette. He didn't even ask for Ning Fan's name. He only looked at Ning Fan's back with a hint of admiration. I didn't expect that a low-ranked cultivation country like your country would have such a talent. This kind of talent would only appear once in 100 years in my rain temple. It's a pity that this kid's evil cultivation has a deep foundation. I'm afraid that it would be hard for him to switch to righteous cultivation. The stubborn old men of the temple will never allow evil cultivators to join. What a pity, such a great talent. When Ning Fan left, a cold harumph came from one of the splendid ships in the sky. Apparently, it heard Ning Fan's comment and felt disdain. Mortals can become immortals. Immortals can become mortals. A mere gold core cultivator doesn't deserve to be called immortals. The juniors nowadays really have a big mouth. That's why they need us gold core seniors to teach them a lesson. I, Huang Fengzi, will help this kid's seniors to teach him a lesson. An early gold core old spirit sense struck down from the ship, straight towards Ning Fan's sea of consciousness. Such a tyrannical gold core old monster. He wanted to kill someone just because of a comment. This motive seemed a bit ridiculous, but in this world, there were many people who hurt people because of a comment. The high and mighty gold core cultivators couldn't tolerate heretical comments. The gold core old monster's spirit sense attack was domineering and didn't hide anything. Its powerful aura locked onto Ning Fan and engulfed a radius of 10 zhang around him. The passers-by were horrified. How could they not know that there was a gold core old monster who wanted to teach Ning Fan a lesson? Ning Fan's expression turned cold. The separation slayer was already hidden in his sleeve. This gold core old monster was too much of a bully. Since that was the case, he wouldn't hesitate to burn the old monster's spirit sense. The soul-burning technique could even mince Moksha Emperor's spirit sense, so why would it be afraid of a mere gold core spirit sense? However, before Ning Fan could make his move, the ugly man Yun Lai who hadn't gone far became angry. His tiger eyes turned cold. He snorted and clawed towards the sky. The spiritual power of the heaven and earth became chaotic at this moment. Break! Under the grasp of the claw, the 1,000 zhang tall ship that Huang Fengzi was on, a grand middle-rank magical treasure, was crushed into pieces by the ugly man's claw. Peak nascent soul. The ship was crushed and countless bodies of the servants exploded into a mist of blood. The early gold core Huang Fengzi was seriously injured. He fell from the sky with a face full of fear. Nascent soul senior. This junior was reckless. This junior had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I beg senior to spare my life. A dignified gold core old monster who had lived for hundreds of years could only beg for mercy in front of the ugly man. He didn't even have the strength to resist. I don't care about killing you. The ugly man shifted his gaze and looked at Ning Fan with deep meaning. After he made his move, he realized that even if he didn't make a move, Ning Fan still had the means to kill a gold core expert. This harmonious spirit junior isn't simple. I'm afraid that he will be famous in your country in less than 10 years. At this moment, because of the ugly man's claw, the gold core old monsters in the ship in the sky were extremely frightened. They didn't have the slightest bit of arrogance anymore. In Sinister Sparrow's sect, Sinister Sparrow who was discussing with the elders suddenly stood up with a shocked expression. Nascent soul magical technique, broken palm art. This is the divine messenger of the Rain Divine Palace. Don't divine messengers only go to righteous sects? Why would they come to our evil sect? Let's go and see. A few gold core old monsters rushed out of the main hall with a solemn expression. Thank you. Ning Fan cupped his fists at the ugly man again. He shook his head helplessly and hurriedly squeezed out of the crowd. He didn't want to be high profile and didn't even use the 7 apricot voyage ship. But if he stayed with the ugly man, he wouldn't be high profile anymore. You're welcome. Yun Lai nodded to Ning Fan and disappeared in a flash. Teleportation. A divine ability that only a few nascent soul old monsters could comprehend. The commotion quickly calmed down. When Sinister Sparrow and the others arrived, Ning Fan wasn't there and Yun Lai was also nowhere to be found. A nascent soul expert, it's fate that we meet again. A gold core elder of Sinister Sparrow's sect seemed to be sighing, but in fact, he was secretly relieved. Chapter 50. Sinister Sparrow sect's disciple recruitment ceremony was held in the Outer Mountain, and all the disciples were outer disciples. An outer sect disciple, after accumulating enough sect contribution points and having a cultivation of level 5 vein opening realm, could enter the inner sect and become an inner sect disciple. Inner disciples could be promoted to deacon of the sect after reaching level 8 vein opening and accumulating enough sect contribution points. After accumulating enough merit points and breaking through to the harmonious spirit realm, the deacon of the sect would be promoted to an elder of the sect. Above the elders of the sect were the 4 venerables of Sinister Sparrow sect. Most of the sects followed this pattern. The difference between the righteous and evil sects was probably the method of obtaining sect contribution points. For example, in the righteous sects, if the elders were not late in teaching and there was no trouble in the sect, one would be able to obtain 1 sect contribution point. As for the evil sects, one would be able to obtain 1 sect contribution point if they defeated at least 3 of their fellow disciples in a month. The righteous sects emphasized on modesty while the evil sects emphasized on competition. The outer mountain gate had not opened yet, but those who came to join the sect were gathered outside the gate. The outer sect experts who came to watch the ceremony had already been led to the inner mountain gate to rest and were personally received by the inner sect disciples. Ning Fan had little interest in promoting his position in the sect. He was only slightly interested in the Sinister Sparrow sect. Profound Yin Chi was 1 and Lan Mei was half. The outer mountain gate had yet to open and the examination elder had yet to appear. It seemed to be testing the patience of the disciples. The path of cultivation was boring and lonely. If one didn't even have this little bit of patience, it was not enough to become an immortal cultivator. The wait was long. Ning Fan sat cross-legged on the ground and naturally wouldn't waste his time. Even if there were no dawn, he would secretly circulate his magical power to promote the spirit of his immortal veins. Relying on his own cultivation, the speed of spirit evolution was close to 0, but it was still better than nothing. The only unexpected thing was that the first round of the sect entrance exam tested patience. He thought that the entrance exam was just a formality and wouldn't waste much time. But now it seemed like it wouldn't end in a short time. He had an appointment with Lan Mei to treat her tonight, but he decided to postpone it for the time being. For Ning Fan, this matter wasn't something that he had to do. Similar to Ning Fan, many cultivators with a calm mind sat cross-legged on the ground and circulated their magical power to open their immortal veins. While most of the people were waiting, they couldn't help but look a little anxious. Outside the outer mountain gate, they waited for 3 days. Other than Ning Fan, the rest of the cultivators were all vein-opening cultivators who had yet to abstain from eating. After not eating for 3 days, many of them were starving. Those whose Dao hearts weren't firm left one after another. Those who left first were mostly young masters of the mortal world's official families. They couldn't bear the hardship. In their imagination, immortal cultivation should be a relaxing and joyful time, but they never imagined that they would have to suffer so much. Naturally, they were greatly disappointed. He waited for another 3 days. For 6 whole days, the group of Dao seekers outside the outer mountain gate had not eaten or drunk anything. Some of the weaker ones could not hold on any longer, and some of them left. Another 3 days passed. On the 9th day, only a third of the original number of people remained outside the outer mountain gate. There were only about 200 people left. Other than Ning Fan, most of them didn't look too good. In the outer mountain gate, several outer mountain gate elders secretly used their divine senses to observe the Daoist seekers and nodded repeatedly. There are actually 200 people who passed the first test this year. You should know that in the previous years, it was already not bad if 100 people passed. The destruction of the Heavenly Beast sect is quite beneficial to our sect. A yellow-robed old man smiled and said. it seems that this time, the outer mountain gate will have many outstanding disciples. Especially that young man in a white robe and black cloak who was sitting in the corner. For 9 whole days, he sat there without moving an inch. Such a calm temperament. This child's Tao heart must be as firm as a boulder, the most suitable for evil cultivation. After all, evil cultivation methods are usually very fast, and it is easy to have inner demons. The most important test is the Tao heart. A black-robed old man stroked his beard and kept praising Ning Fan. These elders were only harmonious spirit cultivators, but they couldn't see through Ning Fan's harmonious spirit cultivation. Otherwise, they would be even more shocked. Among the outer mountain gate elders, a black-robed young man looked at Ning Fan with an unnatural expression. 7 Apricot young lord, Ning Fan. You really came. This black-robed young man was the disciple of Black Revered Yen Bai, one of the 4 evil ancestors. He was the one who was scared out of the Mo clan by Ning Fan, Yen Jueyan. Today, he immediately handed in his contribution points and was promoted to an elder after returning to the sect. However, Ning Fan's terror had left an indelible mark in his heart. He, Elder Yen is also interested in this junior. You can't fight over him with us old men. A smiling old man winked at Yen Jueyan. Yen Jueyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fight over people referred to disciples with excellent aptitudes. After becoming an outer sect disciple, they would attach themselves to the elders. Obviously, these harmonious spirit outer sect elders all had their eyes on Ning Fan. Once Ning Fan passed the next few tests and officially became an outer sect disciple, these old men would fight over him. Yen Jueyan dryly laughed a few times. He never thought of letting Ning Fan become his subordinate. That young man was too frightening. At this moment, none of the harmonious spirit elders here could defeat Ning Fan. This group of old men is still dreaming of recruiting Ning Fan. I'm afraid these old men's eyes will fall out of their sockets in the next few tests. After 9 days of selection, when the sky turned dark, there were finally several 8th-level vein opening deacons who opened the outer mountain gate. The cultivators who had been suffering from hunger and cold for 9 days were more or less grumbling in their hearts. But when they saw the terrifying 8th-level vein opening deacons, they kept quiet out of fear and no longer dared to complain. They respectfully stood up one after another. As for Ning Fan, he also stood up and patted the dust off his body. He sensed the situation of the immortal vein's spirit ascension and shook his head with a sigh. 9 days was only for one immortal vein's spirit to ascend by 1/10. Didn't this mean that with his own cultivation, he could only ascend one immortal vein in 3 months? This speed wasn't slow, but for Ning Fan who had ascended 30 immortal veins in 1 night, it was like a tortoise crawling. After entering the sect, I will use the medicinal herbs from the righteous and evil sects to concoct some dawn. I can't concoct the rising spirit Dan because I lack a few rare spiritual herbs. However, I can concoct a burning spirit Dan. The effect of this Dan is far inferior to the rising spirit Dan. Moreover, consuming this Dan will cause great pain. However, it seems like I have no other choice. While Ning Fan was pondering, the 200 cultivators had already been led to the outer mountain gate by the deacons. Ning Fan's expression didn't change as he followed the crowd into the mountain gate. The first round of assessment had ended. Tomorrow would be the second round of assessment. Before that, the cultivators who were suffering from hunger and cold could have a night's rest. Ning Fan sat alone on the floor in a thatched hut that could accommodate 10 people. He continued to circulate his qi to ascend the immortal vein spirit. The other 9 cultivators went out of the hut one after another and went to the kitchen to have their meal. After everyone had left, Ning Fan suddenly stood up. The green light on his hair band revolved. He had cast the invisibility technique of the profound gold spirit equipment. After 9 days of meditation, Ning Fan didn't feel tired at all. He didn't need to rest. He was willing to go out and investigate the whereabouts of the profound Yin Qi while the others were not around. As the name suggested, the profound yin qi could only form in a place of extreme yin. However, Ning Fan carefully released his spirit sense. There was no such place of extreme yin in the entire outer mountain gate. Except for the fog that lingered all year round and the cold spirit, it was far from the degree of extreme yin. There was no such thing in the outer mountain gate. Could it be that the profound yin qi was hidden in the inner mountain gate? Ning Fan cast the invisibility technique and went straight to the inner mountain gate. The guards along the way were all ignored by Ning Fan. With the invisibility technique of his profound gold spirit equipment, even an early gold core cultivator wouldn't be able to see through him. No one in the outer mountain gate could see Ning Fan. Ning Fan maintained his invisibility technique until he reached the end of the outer mountain gate. There was a huge yellow jade door that was 100 zhang tall. The inner mountain gate must be behind the huge door. When he was outside the huge door, the yin-yang locket in Ning Fan's dantian became more excited. Is there something here that the yin-yang locket cares about? Ning Fan's eyes slightly focused as he stepped into the huge door. But at this moment, a layer of gray light screen suddenly lit up. At the same time, a sharp voice like a sparrow's chirp resounded in Sinister Sparrow Sect. As for Ning Fan's invisibility technique, it was directly broken by the formation. Ning Fan's expression changed. He didn't expect that there would be such a strange formation in the inner mountain gate. Even with Ning Fan's formation Dao cultivation, he couldn't see that there was a formation here. It wasn't because the grade of the formation was too high, but because the formation here was too natural and had already merged with the heaven and earth. How could he see that there was a formation here? The eye of the formation was also merged with the heaven and earth, making it hard to find. It wouldn't be easy to break this formation unless he attacked it forcefully. He didn't have any deep hatred with Sinister Sparrow Sect, so why would he destroy this formation? It seems like I can't enter the inner mountain gate for the time being. I still don't know if the profound yin qi is inside the inner mountain gate. I'll think about it another day. Not far away, the experts of Sinister Sparrow Sect had arrived to see who was trying to break into the inner mountain gate. Ning Fan knew that he couldn't stay here for long, so he turned around and left. In the middle of the night, the sound of insects came from outside the thatched cottage. Ning Fan was sitting cross-legged in meditation in the thatched cottage. A few youths beside him were in high spirits, discussing spiritedly. Did you hear? Someone broke into the inner mountain gate in the evening, alerting many experts of the outer mountain gate. Even a harmonious spirit elder personally chased after the troublemaker, but still couldn't catch him. I don't know what kind of audacious person dared to break into the inner mountain gate. I heard that the person was running towards our house. Hey, Ning Fan, did you see the face of that harmonious spirit elder? I don't know. Ning Fan's tone was indifferent. Humph. What's with that arrogance? The youth who asked the question was obviously dissatisfied with Ning Fan's cold tone. He knitted his brows and ignored Ning Fan. Speaking of which, the second test tomorrow seems to be the Demon Sinister Forest. I heard that we, the Dao Seekers, have to stay in the Demon Sinister Forest for a month. What? Demon Sinister Forest? The graveyard where Sinister Sparrow Sect dumped the corpses of their enemies? I heard that there are many evil spirits there. They are extremely powerful. Even a level 10 vein opening expert wouldn't be able to survive in there. Don't worry. The highest cultivation level of us Dao Seekers is only at level 4 vein opening. The lowest cultivation level is just a mortal. I don't think Sinister Sparrow Sect will let us go too deep into the Demon Sinister Forest. When the time comes, the sect will give out a contribution card. It seems like we have to hunt ghosts or collect spiritual herbs. I wonder what the test is. Ning Fan's eyelids twitched when he heard the discussion of the crowd. Chapter 51. It was early in the morning in the outer sect, but the Dao Seekers were already divided into 2 lines. There were 70 women in one line and 130 men in the other. A few deacons were holding a register and checking the names of the Tao seekers. The names were calculated yesterday evening. The deacon in the lead was a level 9 vein opening female cultivator. She was wearing a pink silk dress and had an oval face. Her hair was tied up in a bun. She was holding a register and her eyes swept across the crowd of Tao seekers. Her voice was cold. My name is Bai Xiu, level 9 vein opening. I'm the main deacon in charge of the sect assessment. For the second assessment, you will be going to the forbidden area of the inner sect, Demon Sinister Forest. The details will be explained by the elders in the inner sect. Here, I need to verify everyone's name, identity, background, and cultivation technique. Bai Xiu enunciated the words cultivation technique very clearly. Name, identity, origin, all of these could be fabricated and couldn't be verified. Yu country was millions of miles wide. Who would know which village or which city you were born in? There were even foreign Tao seekers from other cultivation countries. Their origin was even harder to verify. In every assessment, there would be people with ulterior motives. They would make up their name and identity to sneak into Sinister Sparrow's sect. They could fabricate their name, identity, appearance and origin, but there were 2 points that they couldn't hide. His cultivation base and the cultivation method he practiced. As for cultivation, it would be tested later, not now. Cultivation technique. If you found a righteous cultivation technique, take it down immediately. If you found another evil cultivation technique, take it down immediately. Now, I will call out one person and verify another. Zhu Qingqing. Bai Xiu turned to the female Tao seeker. She seemed to hate men and asked the female first. Zhu Qingqing, born in the windless city of the southern region of Yu country. She cultivates a fire elemental evil art. An ordinary-looking woman walked out from the group. Immediately, another deacon placed a fiery red crystal in front of her. The woman pressed her palm on the crystal and a faint black flame was emitted from the crystal. Not bad. This woman didn't lie. Next, Lan Ting. Lan Ting, from snow-blowing city, northern region of Yu country. Cultivation technique, water attribute evil technique. Next, Lu Shi. Next, Yang Mi. After answering the questions, the women placed their palms on the crystal to test the type of cultivation technique. Everyone might cultivate many cultivation techniques, but there would always only be one main cultivation technique. No matter what, it was difficult to conceal the main cultivation technique. After a round of inspection, out of the 70 girls, 11 of them had lied. Their cultivation methods did not pass and were taken down by the experts of Sinister Sparrow sect on the spot. There was even a harmonious spirit female cultivator among them. As soon as her identity was exposed, she quickly flew up to the sky and left. However, she was forcefully captured by 3 harmonious spirit old men who were guarding her in the dark. Many of them were speechless. They didn't expect to see a harmonious spirit female cultivator lying in ambush beside them. On the other hand, Ning Fan's eyes flickered. He was pondering how he should answer the question later. The examination of the women was over. Next, it was time to examine the men. A trace of disgust flashed in Bai Xiu's eyes, and her tone became even colder. If you dare to look at me while I'm talking, I'll dig your eyes out. First, Li Zhihuan. Li Zhihuan, a collateral descendant of the Li clan in the western region of Yu country. His cultivation technique is the body-seizing technique. A courteous young master with a cultivation of level 3 vein openings saluted Bai Xiu. He quickly averted his eyes and didn't dare to look at Bai Xiu again. This young master with the surname Li had already inquired about Bai Xiu. She had a strict obsession with men. She didn't have any physical contact with men. She didn't talk to men casually. She didn't even allow men to look at her. If it wasn't because of this examination deacon, she wouldn't pay attention to any man. Li Zhihuan wouldn't touch the bad luck and make Bai Xiu unhappy. When the crowd heard about Li Zhihuan's origin and cultivation technique, they were all in awe. Even Bai Xiu, who hated men the most, felt a little less disgusted with Li Jihuan. The Li clan in western Yu country was considered to be a famous force in Yu country. It had always been attached to Sinister Sparrow sect. There was even a harmonious spirit elder in the sect who was from the Li clan. Even though Bai Xiu hated men, she didn't dare to offend the Li clan. Moreover, this Li Jihuan cultivated the most dangerous body-seizing evil technique. The body-seizing evil technique was famous among the other evil techniques. It was said that the soul was immortal and could be reborn indefinitely. Relying on the body-seizing technique, the evil cultivators who cultivated the body-seizing evil technique were usually very difficult to kill. Even if they were killed, they could use their soul to possess another cultivator's body and be reborn. The body-seizing evil technique was heaven-defying. The risk of cultivating it was also very high. For example, the famous body-seizing sect in Yu country mainly cultivated the body-seizing evil technique. It was said that only 1 out of 100 people could successfully cultivate it. The others would die from the backlash of the technique. A dignified disciple of the Li clan was willing to cultivate such a dangerous evil technique and succeeded. This child's future would naturally be smooth and smooth. Even breaking through to the harmonious spirit realm and becoming an elder of the sect wouldn't be difficult. Bai Xiu's expression softened a little. She let Li Jihuan use the crystal to test the technique. The crystal reflected the mysterious scene of 2 skeletons devouring each other. This undoubtedly proved that what Li Jihuan cultivated was indeed the demonic art of seizing body. In the dark, a few harmonious spirit outer sect elders who were secretly observing the situation gasped. Even Yan Zhuiyun, who was known for his arrogance, revealed a solemn expression. The body-seizing evil technique. This young man named Li Jihuan would certainly have a bright future. Elder Li, your Li clan has a good seedling. The other elders looked at a yellow-robed elder enviously and congratulated him. Not at all. Jihuan, this child has a tenacious temperament. With the identity of a branch family member, he has succeeded in cultivating the evil technique. The people of the main house are preparing to bring Jihuan's branch into the main house. Elder Li's expression was complacent as if he was the one in the limelight. Li Jihuan passed the examination and returned to the group. The audit was still going on. Bai Xiu continued to examine 20 to 30 people and found a few spies. When she examined the 32nd person, Bai Xiu was shocked again. Lu Ziqiao, the direct descendant of the Lu clan in North Yu, cultivates the soul-refining evil technique. Hiss. Soul-refining evil technique. Some of the Taoist seekers were shocked once again. The soul-refining evil technique wasn't as dangerous as the body-seizing evil technique, but it had an extremely high requirement of talent, almost to the point of being harsh. The first condition was that the cultivator's divine soul must be several times stronger than ordinary people. It was hard to imagine that the handsome young man in beast armor with a short beard was actually a soul-refining expert. The deacon brought the crystal in front of Lu Ziqiao to test, but Lu Ziqiao snorted coldly with extreme arrogance. There's no need for the crystal to test. I'll use the soul-refining art and you will know that I'm not lying. Soul-refining banner, quick. Lu Ziqiao patted his storage pouch and took out a black soul banner. With a gesture, thousands of souls flew out from the banner. Each of them had the cultivation of level 10 vein opening. Thousands of level 10 vein opening. In order to refine such a magical treasure for Lu Ziqiao, no one knew how many people the Lu clan had killed and how many souls they had collected. Although Lu Ziqiao was only at level 4 of the vein opening realm, he had opened up his spirit sense, and the strength of his spirit sense was not any weaker than an ordinary early harmonious spirit cultivator. His divine soul was so strong that it was somewhat terrifying. With the soul-refining flag and his powerful spirit sense, he could even fight against a harmonious spirit expert. He was extremely arrogant towards the vein-opening deacon of Sinister Sparrow sect. But when Bai Xiu and the others saw Lu Ziqiao's horrifying means, they were all aghast and fearful of Lu Ziqiao, who was only at level 4 vein opening. The Lu clan of North Yu had a lot of crazy devils. Today, they realized that it was a well-deserved reputation. Ning Fan raised his eyebrows. This Lu Ziqiao's spirit sense wasn't weak. This person could be called a genius devil cultivator. Such a powerful soul-refining art. Bai Xiu naturally knew that young Master Lu's words weren't false. The next moment, Zhou Xian, the assessment was still going on, but there were no more monstrous disciples like Li Zhihuan and Lu Ziqiao among the 100 people. Apart from finding more than 10 spies, nothing else happened. Next, Ning Fan. Bai Xiu's eyes finally fell on Ning Fan. At this moment, the eyes of the harmonious spirit elders who were hiding in the shadows shone brightly. They already had their eyes on Ning Fan, but they didn't know what kind of devil cultivation method Ning Fan was cultivating. The attribute of the cultivation method would definitely give him a better future following that elder. I hope he has a fire attribute cultivation method. I can see that his body is faintly exuding an extraordinary fire power. It shouldn't be wrong. A red-robed old man murmured. Not necessarily. This person must be cultivating a water attribute cultivation method. I can feel a trace of coldness in his qi. Another white-robed beautiful woman said lightly. You guys are all wrong. This person cultivates an ice attribute cultivation method. Yan Zhuiyun cursed in his heart but didn't say it out loud. He deeply remembered that the speed of Ning Fan's ice light that day was extremely terrifying. Intermediate harmonious spirit with ice attributes spiritual power. This Ning Fan was undoubtedly a heavenly spirit cultivator with ice spirit vein. While everyone was guessing, Ning Fan's expression didn't change. He slowly opened his mouth and said something unbelievable. Ning Fan, from Northern Yu's 7 Apricot City. Cultivation method, dual cultivation method. The news of the old monster accepting a disciple had yet to spread in the Sinister Sparrow sect. Only a few gold core experts like Sinister Sparrow paid attention to Ning Fan's name. These harmonious spirit elders didn't connect Ning Fan with the old monster and only thought of him as a small devil cultivator under the old monster. What shocked everyone was that Ning Fan's cultivation method was the most shameless dual cultivation evil cultivation method. Dual cultivation evil cultivation methods, excluding the heaven-defying yin-yang transformation, were all plucking evil cultivation methods. And the devils who practiced this technique were all perverted devils who would destroy flowers with their hands. Lascivious devils and murderous devils were both devils, but the impression they gave people was very different. Generally speaking, fiends who practiced the dual cultivation technique of plucking and replenishing had weak magical power. Very few fiends who practiced the dual cultivation technique could reach the gold core realm. The plucking evil cultivation method was very fast in the beginning because plucking women was equivalent to seizing cultivation. The magical power of that cultivation was not considered one's own. Generally speaking, those gold core dual cultivation devils would spend a lot of time to refine, consolidate and condense their magical power every time they plucked women. Otherwise, the weak magical power would seriously affect their cultivation. The harmonious spirit elders frowned. They never thought that Ning Fan, whom they had high hopes for, was actually cultivating dual cultivation method. Dual cultivation method didn't have a bright future, and it wasn't a good name to speak of. This child, it's a pity. I don't want him anymore. Let's give him to Elder Chu. Hee, I don't dare to bring a dual cultivation disciple with me. If I'm not careful, I will be eaten by him. The harmonious spirit elders who were passionate about Ning Fan revealed a look of disdain. Even Yan Zhuiyun frowned in confusion. Impossible. Ning Fan's magical power is definitely condensed. It doesn't look like a dual cultivation method. While everyone was despising Ning Fan, those who sought the Tao were also looking at Ning Fan with different expressions. As for the female team, they subconsciously distanced themselves from Ning Fan, fearing that Ning Fan would take advantage of them. Pervert. This child's appearance wasn't bad. It turned out that he was a pervert who used his appearance to harm women. Bai Xiu's eyes turned cold. She hated perverts the most, but being born in an evil sect, there was no rule that forbade them from being accepted. She couldn't deny Ning Fan based on a cultivation method alone. Dual cultivation method, huh? Let's test it. A deacon came to Ning Fan with a crystal in his hand. Ning Fan, on the other hand, turned a blind eye to all the disdain. He had expected that once he exposed his dual cultivation method, he would receive such disdainful looks. After all, although Sinister Sparrow sect was an evil sect, it was much more dignified than the All-Pleasure sect. Although the old devil was ruthless in killing, he still had his own Tao. Pressing his palm on the crystal, Ning Fan took a deep breath and operated the yin-yang transformation. At the same time, the crystal emitted a bright green light. Immediately, the green light turned into countless blood-red light. The red light was so bright that it directly shattered the crystal. The crystal was broken. It wasn't because the magical power was too strong, but because the level of Ning Fan's cultivation method was too high, beyond the range of the crystal. Just what level of cultivation technique is this kid cultivating? Countless experts of Sinister Sparrow sect were so shocked that their jaws dropped. Their disdain towards Ning Fan gradually turned into an instinctive greed. Although the dual cultivation method wasn't good, it wasn't a bad thing to cultivate it if it was extremely profound. Ning Fan frowned as he sensed the countless greedy eyes. It seemed like his yin-yang transformation had caused a lot of trouble. However, this trouble couldn't be avoided. Who asked Sinister Sparrow sect to have an additional segment to test the cultivation method? The yin-yang transformation couldn't be concealed. But so what if it was troublesome? Ning Fan wasn't afraid of trouble. If someone wanted his cultivation method and wanted to seize it, his separation slayer wouldn't mind adding new lives to it. Alright, you can return to the group now. Bai Xiu's disdain towards Ning Fan gradually disappeared. There was only an unknown fear in her eyes. She wasn't afraid of cultivation, but something else. After entering the demon sinister forest, I will act as a deacon and enter the forest to protect these Tao seekers. This Ning Fan wouldn't have any evil thoughts towards me, would he? He has such a powerful cultivation method. What if I can't escape from his evil clutches? Chapter 52. In the inner mountain, the 160 cultivators who had passed the assessment followed the deacons into the inner mountain and headed towards the forbidden area. One only needed to have an inner mountain pass to enter the inner mountain. As for the inner disciple passage medallion, it could actually be purchased. It only required 500 immortal jades. Ning Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If he knew that it was so easy to enter the inner mountain pass, he wouldn't have to take the risk. Each disciple was given a temporary pass that could only be used once. With this pass, they could enter the inner mountain once and participate in the second assessment. 500 immortal jades to buy a permanent inner mountain pass was an expensive price for an ordinary vein-opening disciple, but it was nothing to a tycoon like Ning Fan who had hundreds of thousands of immortal jades. After this assessment, it would be better to go to the sect to buy a pass. Along the way, more or less, the cultivators in the group looked at Ning Fan with strange eyes. Some were disdainful and some were greedy. Since these people came to learn the evil Tao, they naturally weren't good people. Many of them had their eyes on Ning Fan's dual cultivation method. Even the arrogant Lu Ziqiao had secretly threatened Ning Fan. Give me a copy of your cultivation method. If you dare to refuse, I will make you regret it after entering the demon sinister forest. Ning Fan only sneered at Lu Ziqiao's threat. He was an intermediate harmonious spirit expert and his combat power was enough to kill an early gold core expert. Why would he be afraid of a 4th level vein opening Lu Ziqiao? Was he too low-key that these ants thought that he was easy to bully? In the dark, there were countless hidden eyes with harmonious spirit sense secretly looking at Ning Fan's. Ning Fan's frowned in response to this. He could ignore Lu Ziqiao, but he couldn't ignore these harmonious spirit elders. It would be troublesome if he was targeted by them. If they were playing dirty, Ning Fan wasn't so confident that he could see through their evil tricks every time. Shock. I have to shock these old things. It was too greedy to do it 1 or 2 times. Since he couldn't keep a low profile from the beginning, it was not a bad idea to be high profile. As long as it could help solve the problem, Ning Fan didn't mind being high profile. At the back of the inner mountain, there was a gloomy forest sealed by a formation. It was the second assessment venue, Demon Sinister Forest. The higher-ups of Sinister Sparrow sect had no choice but to pay attention to the second assessment. There was even a Golden Core Elder who came to watch. The Demon Sinister Forest was gloomy and damp. Indistinctly, the sound of ghosts' resentment could be heard. Outside the Demon Sinister Forest, an entire troop of Sinister Sparrow sect's Eagle Guards was stationed. Ning Fan closed his eyes and released his spirit sense. He wanted to probe into the formation but to no avail. The Demon Sinister Forest was indeed cold, but it was completely different from the Xian Yin Qi. Ning Fan frowned. Could it be that the profound Yin Qi wasn't in the Demon Sinister Forest? If that was the case, he would have to return empty-handed from the Demon Sinister Forest. He retracted his gaze and looked at the 500 Eagle Guards of Sinister Sparrow sect. His eyes lit up. These guards were all at least at the 6th level of the vein-opening realm. The array they were practicing seemed to be some kind of ancient array. The battle prowess of the Eagle Guard was no weaker than the Apricot Guard. In fact, they could even compete with the Sword Guard. Sinister Sparrow sect did not seem to be as simple as it looked. Perhaps, those who were able to establish a sect in Yu country were not simple people. While Ning Fan was observing the Eagle Guards, the Gold Core Elder Su Ro, who was standing at the front of the Eagle Guards, frowned at Ning Fan. Su Ro knew Ning Fan's true identity. He was the disciple of the Old Monster, the great-grandson of the Lord of Ning City. Su Ro had some friendship with the Old Monster, but she was a little worried when she looked at Ning Fan. She probed with her spirit sense and sensed more than 10 harmonious spirit senses locking onto Ning Fan's body. What is wrong with this brat? Why are there so many old monsters eyeing him as soon as he entered the sect? Really, he loves to cause trouble just like Old Man Han. Should I help him? Su Ro knew that Ning Fan was an intermediate harmonious spirit expert. She also heard that Ning Fan's dual cultivation technique was powerful enough to shatter the crystal, but all of this was natural to her. A technique that could shatter the crystal was at least a nascent soul technique. It wasn't strange for Ning Fan to have such a technique. With the Old Monster's wealth as a 3rd Revolution Dan Master, it wasn't easy for him to get a nascent soul technique, but it wasn't hard either. Moreover, Ning Fan was able to break through to intermediate harmonious spirit at the tender age of 17. With such a fast progress, it was only reasonable for him to cultivate a dual cultivation technique. The only thing that puzzled Su Ro was that the Old Monster was a person with eyes above his head. Why would he teach his disciple a dual cultivation technique? Dual cultivation technique was the most hopeless technique among all the evil techniques. It was extremely fast in the beginning, but later on, it would become more difficult to cultivate. There would be more bottlenecks, and the magical power would be superficial, resulting in a low combat power. However, Su Ro didn't have time to care about Ning Fan, but someone else did. Li Jihuan, the young master of the Li family who was the cultivator of the body-seizing devil cultivation method, quietly approached Ning Fan and whispered. Brother Ning, I'm afraid you are in trouble. Do you want me to help you? Help me? Ning Fan raised his eyebrows. The 4th level vein opening Lu Ziqiao just left, and now the 3rd level vein opening Li Jihuan came. These vein opening juniors wanted to take advantage of him. Yes. This Li knows how to read people. Brother Ning's face is filled with killing intent and black light. You are certainly not immortal. Ning Fan's expression was strange. Was this Li Jihuan praising someone? Didn't people usually say, face is filled with luck and purple light? Brother Ning's test just now revealed a high-rank merit law. I'm afraid it has already attracted the greed of countless people. In the evil sect, where there are countless killings, offending so many people is not good news. In my opinion, it is best for Ning Fan to give this merit law away. After all, an ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. Oh? Brother Li, who do you think Ning Fan should give this merit law to? Ning Fan's expression remained unchanged. In my clan, there is an elder who happens to be an elder in our sect. Brother Ning, why don't you give this merit law to him and use this merit to attach yourself to him? With Elder Li's protection, no one in the evil sect would dare to steal your merit law. Thanks for Brother Li's kindness, but I believe that no one in the Sinister Sparrow sect would dare to steal my merit law. Ning Fan didn't lower his voice. Not only did Li Jihuan hear it, Lu Ziqiao and the 160 other candidates heard it, even the harmonious spirit elders who were hiding in the dark heard it. Li Jihuan slightly frowned. This Ning Fan who was younger than him seemed to be a bit too arrogant. Could it be that this Ning Fan thought that he, a mere teenager, could block the sneaky attacks of countless harmonious spirit seniors? This was the evil sect. As long as he could steal something secretly, no one would care. Just as Ning Fan's voice faded, a beautiful figure in blue walked gracefully towards them with graceful steps. As soon as the lady appeared, all the youths present held their breath. Many of them who had heard of the lady's identity had a fiery look in their eyes. She is the daughter of the Sinister Sparrow sect's master, Lan Mei. She has always been indifferent to worldly affairs. Why is she here today to observe the sect's disciple recruitment test? Could it be that there was someone among the candidates that the dignified young master of Lan Mei cared about? Hiss. Even someone as cold and arrogant as Lan Mei finally cared about a man? When the eyes of the experts of Sinister Sparrow sect fell on Lan Mei's hand, they were shocked. They saw that Lan Mei was holding a black jade slip engraved with a sparrow's mark, the sect master's message jade slip. Lan Mei came with the sect master's jade slip. Could it be that the sect master of Sinister Sparrow sect had an order to pass down? What surprised the experts the most was that Lan Mei, who had always been cold and arrogant, slowly walked towards Ning Fan. For the first time, he squeezed out a stiff smile on his face, which had never smiled before. Ning Fan, you really know how to cause trouble. Really? I don't think it's troublesome. But your smile is really ugly. In the eyes of the experts who were familiar with Lan Mei, it was as if they had seen a ghost. Oh my God, the young master is smiling at Ning Fan. What is the relationship between Ning Fan and the young master? Ning Fan, this name sounds familiar. Seeing that Ning Fan and Lan Mei knew each other and had a good relationship, the experts who were hostile towards Ning Fan revealed themselves one after another. None of them dared to show any hostility towards Ning Fan. Even a fool could see that Ning Fan must have a great background. A few harmonious spirit elders began to ponder about Ning Fan's background. 7 Apricot Ning Fan, it did sound familiar. Where have they heard of it before? While everyone was puzzled, Lan Mei smiled faintly and crushed the jade slip in her palm. The jade slip broke and the cold voice of the sect master of Sinister Sparrow sect was heard. Ning Fan is the disciple of Alchemist Han and the grandson of Black Devil Ning of Ning City. No one from Sinister Sparrow sect is allowed to provoke Ning Fan. Otherwise, he will be killed without mercy. The sect master's voice slowly faded away in the wind, but the whole scene became strangely quiet because of Sinister Sparrow sect's order. Everyone's face was filled with shock. Finally, those harmonious spirit elders remembered where they had heard of Ning Fan. The chief auctioneer of 7 Apricot City's Dao Fruit Auction, the person who could shock a group of devils with a single glance, Ning Fan. Old Devil's disciple and Black Devil Ning's grandson. This Ning Fan must not be offended. No wonder he had such a high-level dual cultivation technique. It turned out that he had such a background. Each of the harmonious spirit experts gasped. No one dared to have any thoughts about Ning Fan anymore. Even their original intention of recruiting Ning Fan had disappeared. Since Ning Fan was Old Devil's disciple, he naturally belonged to the faction of the four revered devils. Who could recruit him? Fortunately the sect master gave this order. Otherwise, if we harmonious spirit experts acted rashly without knowing Ning Fan's background, not only will we offend the master apothecary, we will also offend the black demon venerable who is very popular in Yu country. The Gold Core elder Su Ro heaved a sigh of relief. She didn't expect that the sect master would personally come to solve Ning Fan's problem. Lu Ziqiao, who threatened Ning Fan previously, now had a rare look of fear on his cold face. He was cold and arrogant, but it depended on who he was facing. Ning Fan's background was enough to make him fearful. He was an existence that the whole Lu family didn't dare to offend. Li Jihuan, who threatened Ning Fan in disguise, also couldn't stay calm at this moment. He said that Ning Fan was arrogant and ignorant, but now it seemed that he was the arrogant and ignorant one. With Ning Fan's background, who in Sinister Sparrow's sect would dare to covet his merit law? It was ridiculous that he thought that he was smart enough to give Ning Fan the so-called good advice. It was really ridiculous. As for Bai Xiao, who looked down on Ning Fan before, her beautiful eyes were filled with regret. Her previous cold words shouldn't have offended Ning Fan, right? It's over. Now, Ning Fan could no longer keep a low profile in Sinister Sparrow's sect. Ning Fan's eyes flashed. He looked into Lan Mei's eyes and smiled meaningfully. Your father saved them. Sinister Sparrow's jade slip seemed to be protecting Ning Fan, but in fact, it was protecting the experts of the sect. According to Ning Fan's plan, he wanted to establish his prestige in a high-profile manner, but not through his background. If there were harmonious spirit experts who didn't know what was good for them and followed Ning Fan into Demon Sinister Forest, Ning Fan would kill them. Ning Fan believed that after killing a few harmonious spirit experts, no one would dare to offend him. However, Sinister Sparrow's jade slip had ruined Ning Fan's chance to establish his prestige. Moreover, it seemed that this jade slip was also a reminder to Ning Fan. Sinister Sparrow didn't want Ning Fan to start a massacre in the sect. After all, these experts were the foundation of Sinister Sparrow's sect. What a good Sinister Sparrow. He had only met Ning Fan once, but he could already see through Ning Fan's character. Tell your father that I won't kill people easily. But if someone comes to me, I won't be merciful. Ning Fan smiled faintly. He seemed to have thought of something and apologized to Lan Mei. I just didn't expect that the assessment would take so much time. Let's postpone the treatment for you. You don't have to be too anxious. Who's anxious? Lan Mei blushed. If she had a choice, she wouldn't let Ning Fan treat her. It was too embarrassing to see that kind of place. A harmonious spirit elder went up the platform and explained the rules of the second assessment. But Ning Fan wasn't in the mood to listen because Lan Mei was hesitating. She took out a storage pouch from her bosom and handed it to Ning Fan. Ning Fan scanned the storage pouch with his spirit sense and his face turned strange. There were 2 bottles of rising spirit pills, the effects of which were self-explanatory. One was a bottle of ghost-suppressing pill, the user would be immune to all evil and ghosts after consuming it. One was a silver formation plate, which could be used to lay down a small spirit-level formation at any time, allowing one to rest and cultivate in it. There was also an ancient map depicting the entire Demon Sinister Forest with countless red and black dots. The red dots represented spiritual herbs and the black dots represented danger. Ning Fan couldn't help but show a strange expression. This was like seeing a ghost. Lan Mei, who had never had a good impression of him, had actually given him gifts. Moreover, the gifts she had given him were extremely valuable. What do you mean by this? Nothing. Lan Mei evaded Ning Fan's eyes. She didn't know why she gave Ning Fan so many things. Perhaps she was worried that Ning Fan would encounter danger in the Demon Sinister Forest. After all, Ning Fan wasn't a peaceful person. In the depths of the forest, there was a terrifying ghost king that even Sinister Sparrow was afraid of. She hoped that Ning Fan wouldn't wander around. There were many intermediate harmonious spirit cultivators who died in the forest. Lan Mei had a feeling that Ning Fan wouldn't stay in the newbie village with the Tao Seeker. But why was she worried about Ning Fan? Why? She didn't understand. Chapter 53. Every disciple who entered the demon's sinister forest would be given a jade disc called the Contribution Jade Disc. As the name suggested, it was used to record the sect's contribution points. The contribution points could not only be used to exchange for cultivation techniques, magical weapons, elixirs, but it could also be used to promote one's position. On the jade disc of each seeker, there was the word 5 flashing, which meant that each seeker had 5 contribution points. This was the reward for passing the first test. The contribution jade disc would only be given to the sect's disciples. From the moment they entered the demon's sinister forest, they had become the outer disciples of Sinister Sparrow's sect and were qualified to hold the contribution jade disc. However, if they were to die in the demon's sinister forest, their status as a disciple would naturally lose its effect. Therefore, only those who could leave the demon's sinister forest alive after 1 month would be able to become a disciple of Sinister Sparrow's sect. The demon's sinister forest was divided into 9 regions. When Sinister Sparrow's sect was established, the old ancestor of Sinister Sparrow's sect had explored the demon's sinister forest with his peak gold core cultivation. However, he was stopped in the 4th region as he was injured by a ghost king who was comparable to a nascent soul expert. The demon's sinister forest was indeed not the place where the Black Yin Chi resided. However, the strangeness of this place might be even stronger than the Black Yin Chi. After the 4th region, the old ancestor of Sinister Sparrow's sect didn't know the details. He only knew that it was extremely dangerous. The only fortunate thing was that the ghosts in the demon's sinister forest seemed to be under some kind of restriction. Ghosts who had reached a certain cultivation level could only be trapped in a certain region. All the ghosts couldn't leave the demon's sinister forest, otherwise, they would be turned into ashes. It was also very strange to leave the enemy's corpse in the demon's sinister forest. After a few years, the corpse would turn into a ghost. There was an old saying in the cultivation world, the more evil a mountain is, the more immortal secrets it hides. This demon's sinister forest must have some kind of heaven-defying secret. The second test of Sinister Sparrow's sect was set in the 1st region of the demon's sinister forest. Within a radius of 30 miles, the disciples could move freely. Fighting was allowed. Killing was allowed. Hunting ghosts was allowed. Harvesting spiritual herbs was allowed. Of course, finding a place to hide for a month without doing anything was also allowed. The path of demonic cultivation was full of hardships and dangers. It required a courageous and diligent heart. You could hide for a while, but you couldn't hide forever. You had to face the dangers sooner or later. The 1st region was filled with ghosts with vein-opening cultivation. Killing a ghost would earn them some contribution points. For cultivators below the 3rd level of vein-opening realm, killing a ghost would earn 1 contribution point. Ghosts from the 4th to the 6th floor were worth 2 contribution points each. Ghosts from the 7th to the 10th floor were worth 10 contribution points each. The higher the cultivation of the ghost, the more difficult it would be to kill it, and the more contribution points it would obtain. An early harmonious spirit ghost was worth 100 contribution points. An intermediate ghost was worth 200 contribution points. Late-stage ghosts, 500 contribution points, and peak-stage ghosts, 1,000 contribution points. To kill a harmonious spirit ghost, one must at least enter the 2nd region. It was not a place that disciples who had just entered the sect could enter. Even a harmonious spirit elder would be in great danger. Apart from the entrance examination, the sect contribution points would not be increased by hunting ghosts in the demon's sinister forest. The reason why he increased the contribution points of the disciples was to encourage them to have a competitive spirit. Of course, if you're afraid of danger, you can also pick spiritual herbs. In the first region, there were many spiritual herbs that were over 10 years old. Usually, one would need to harvest several dozen kilograms to exchange for one contribution point. In the first region, the entrance examination would be held once every 10 years. Naturally, the age of the spiritual herbs would be very low and worthless. Apart from the two methods mentioned above, there was another method that was more direct. Snatch. As long as you snatch someone's jade plate and destroy it, the other's contribution points would automatically become your own. As for the person whose jade plate was destroyed, he would have to spend 10 immortal jades to buy another one. It wasn't expensive. As for the contribution points, he would have to accumulate them again. Once they entered the demon's sinister forest, the 160 disciples dispersed. Most of them were alone, but there were some who were familiar with each other. The 20 deacon disciples were hiding in the dark. Unless there was an uncontrollable situation, they wouldn't come out to interfere with the trial. The duration of the trial was 1 month. Anyone who left the forest within 1 month would be regarded as a failure and their status as a disciple would be revoked. In the first region of the demon's sinister forest, the air was damp and oppressive. There seemed to be ghosts staring at them from the dark. Ning Fan held the black jade plate in his hand and pondered. He was looking at the ancient map given by Lan Mei. There were 9 regions on the map. Only the first 3 regions were marked with the location of the spiritual herbs and the danger points. As for the 4th region, only half of it was marked. It seemed that the old ancestor of Sinister Sparrow's sect was injured by the Ghost King and had to leave the 4th region in a hurry. After the 4th region, the ghosts there would surely be more terrifying than the Ghost King. I didn't expect this demon's sinister forest to be so strange. I wonder what kind of secret is hidden in the deepest part of the forest. The yin-yang locket in Ning Fan's dantian faintly sensed that there was something in the forest that caught the attention of the yin-yang locket. It wasn't the profound yin qi, but it was countless times more precious than the profound yin qi. Ning Fan reckoned that with his current strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to move unhindered in the first region. As for the second region, he would be fine as long as he was careful. In the third region, if he concealed himself and avoided fighting with the ghosts, he wouldn't be in any danger. But in the 4th region, there was a Ghost King that was comparable to a nascent soul expert. If he entered, he would certainly die. Fortunately, Lan Mei had given him the map. Otherwise, given Ning Fan's exuberant curiosity, he would probably go in to explore and die without knowing how he died. After knowing Ning Fan's identity, none of the 160 disciples had any hostility towards him. There were even some girls who were secretly flirting with Ning Fan, hoping that they could climb up the ladder. However, he didn't care about such girls even if they came to him. He was afraid that he didn't lack beauties in his life. Speaking of which, there were still 17 evil girls waiting to be plucked in the cauldron ring. While he was pondering, Ning Fan unknowingly went deeper and deeper into the forest. Along the way, Ning Fan didn't care about the 10-years-old spiritual herbs. Gradually, there were first and second level vein-opening ghosts that attacked Ning Fan. Ning Fan's Separation Slayer sword flashed and easily killed these ghosts. In the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, he had killed 15 ghosts. The jade plate's contribution points had reached 20 points. When he killed the 15th ghost, Ning Fan's eyes flashed. Ghost mist emerged from the ghost's body and formed a fingernail-sized dark soul bead. This soul bead was illusory and ethereal, but it contained the pure power of spirit sense. Ning Fan pondered for a moment and revealed a shocked expression. After swallowing the soul bead, the power of his spirit sense increased a little. Sense bead. Only the ghosts raised in the Nine Yin land will have the chance to form sense bead after killing them. Could this demon's sinister forest be the Nine Yin land? Ning Fan couldn't help but be shocked. The land of Nine Yin wasn't a naturally formed terrain. It was a man-made formation. The level of this formation was even higher than the Void Grand Formation. It was divided into 9 regions. It was a ghost-raising formation used by an ancient devil to rear ghosts.
Could this demon's sinister forest be a place where an ancient devil used to rear ghosts and hunt for sense beads? If that was the case, would there be an inheritance of that devil in the deepest part of the forest? It was the best place for him to kill ghosts and hunt for sense beads to enhance his spirit sense. If that's the case, I can't let these ghosts go. Let's start from the first area. Ning Fan's eyes moved and he smiled faintly. He stepped on the icy light with the starlight sword in his hand. Like an icy rainbow, he danced in the cold forest, reaping the lives of the ghosts. Sinister Sparrow Sect, in the inner sex merit hall. Elder Meng Chu was yawning lazily. He was lazy by nature and had an intermediate harmonious spirit cultivation base, but he chose the most leisurely and least profitable position as an elder, which was to guard the merit hall. The merit hall was the place where disciples could exchange their merits for treasures. It was also the place where they could accept tasks and complete tasks to exchange for merits. In the center of the hall, there was a 14-zhang tall black jade tablet. The jade tablet was glittering with light spots. It recorded the contribution ranking of each disciple and elder in the sect. The first in the contribution ranking was naturally the sect master, Sinister Sparrow, with a total of 61 million contribution points. The second was one of the 4 venerables of Sinister Sparrow sect, Venerable Weeping Ling Giku. He had left Sinister Sparrow sect 70 years ago and no one knew whether he was dead or alive. However, the value on the merit stele would occasionally rise. Each time it rose, it would rise by more than 10,000 points. The reason why it rose by 10,000 points was because he had killed a late Gold Core righteous expert. When Ling Giku left the sect, he was an intermediate Gold Core expert with 720,000 contribution points. But now, he had 45 million contribution points. No one knew how many righteous experts he had killed. No one knew which righteous experts he had killed. No one knew where he was now. Many people guessed that Ling Giku had broken through to the nascent soul realm after 70 years. The third place was Old Monster Han. Most of the 83 million contribution points were obtained by accepting tasks to concoct pills. After all, concocting a third revolution pill could earn 1,000 of contribution points. The rest of the top 20 were mostly occupied by the sect elders. Among the younger generation, the one with the highest contribution points was He Zun's disciple, Yan Zhuiyun. He was known as the #1 youth of Sinister Sparrow sect. He had broken through to the intermediate harmonious spirit realm before the age of 30 and became an elder of the sect. As for Yan Zhuiyun, he was only ranked 45th on the merit list with 190,000 contribution points.
As for the lazy elder Meng Chu, he only obtained 100 points after guarding the merit hall for a month. After 200 years, he had only accumulated 240,000 contribution points and was ranked 41st on the merit list. Today seems to be the second test of the sect's new disciples. I wonder if there are any disciples who can reach 100 contribution points in a month. 100 contribution points might be too difficult for these young boys. After all, when this old man entered the sect a few hundred years ago, I only managed to kill 7 vein opening ghosts and collect 200 gene of spiritual herbs in the second stage. Even the most outstanding disciple over the years like Yan Zhuiyun only managed to get 170 contribution points in the second stage when he entered the sect. He leisurely lay on the deck chair, his eyes inadvertently swept across the merit list towards the position after 10,000. Sinister Sparrow sect's 10,000 vein opening disciples and new disciples were ranked last when the contribution points were calculated. It's still only 5 contribution points. The second test has already started for 2 hours. These boys are really weak. They can't even kill a ghost. Cough, 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 wait, this is... Elder Meng Chu was leisurely enjoying his tea. Suddenly, he was startled by the change in the merit list and choked on his tea. He saw a disciple named Li Jihuan's contribution points flashing several times. In just 2 hours, he had already accumulated 9 contribution points. 9 contribution points in 2 hours. This boy has already killed 4 level 3 vein opening ghosts. How is this possible? Meng Chu's eyes glanced upwards. What surprised him even more was a disciple named Lu Ziqiao. In just 2 hours, he had already accumulated 17 contribution points. Subsequently, this boy's contribution points actually jumped by 10 points. 10 contribution points required one to kill at least a level 7 vein opening ghost to obtain it. This disciple named Lu Ziqiao, could it be that he could kill a level 7 vein opening ghost as soon as he joined the sect? This is a genius, perhaps even stronger than Yan Zhuiyun. Meng Chu suddenly stood up. He thought that it was necessary to report this matter to the upper echelons. After all, he had another task of guarding the merit hall, which was to discover disciples with rapid increase in contribution points. These disciples usually had amazing potential and were worth cultivating. But just as he stood up and was about to leave the merit hall to report this matter, he suddenly turned his head around and looked at the merit monument again. This glance made his breath quicken. He couldn't believe it and his heart was about to jump out of his throat. The contribution points of a disciple named Ning Fan were increasing at a terrifying speed. 754 points. In just 2 hours, this boy had already accumulated 754 points. What did he actually do in the demon sinister forest? A monstrous disciple. Meng Chu asked himself. Even if he entered the demon sinister forest, his speed of accumulating contribution points wouldn't be faster than this. Ning Fan, Ning Fan. I must report this to the sect master. Meng Chu had always been indifferent to worldly affairs, so he didn't know that Ning Fan's name had already spread in Sinister Sparrow sect. But the shock of the merit monument was just the beginning. Allowing Ning Fan to enter the demon sinister forest as a new disciple was definitely a heaven-defying mistake. The merit stele would be destroyed. Chapter 54. The gloomy demon sinister forest was filled with the suffocating smell of rotten leaves. While walking in the forest, an evil ghost would appear from time to time and let out an obscure roar. Hissing sounds could be heard from time to time. In just 2 hours, several disciples had already lost their lives in the demon sinister forest. The ghosts in the first area had no intelligence, so they weren't afraid of death when facing low-level cultivators. It was easy to kill ghosts, but it was difficult to come out unscathed. In the forest, on top of a pile of rotten leaves, a yellow-robed girl was stumbling and running for her life. She was only at level 1 vein opening, so her magical power was weak. But when she stood up, there were 3 level 5 vein opening ghosts chasing after her. Help, help me. The girl's clear oval face was full of fear. Her embroidered shoes were nowhere to be seen, and her bare feet were full of blood stains. While running, she would occasionally meet other disciples, but no one would come to her rescue. 3 level 5 vein opening ghosts, no one would look for trouble for themselves. The ghosts were getting closer and closer, and the girl was in despair. She leaned against a withered tree and slowly sat down on the ground. In front of her, the 3 ghosts had green eyes and were laughing miserably. Jia Jia, they were crying. Someone, save me. I'll do anything you want me to do, she stuttered, but no one answered her. Then, she closed her eyes in despair. However, a shocking thing happened immediately after. Instead of being torn apart by the ghostly creatures, a cold gust of wind blew over. Shortly after, 3 mournful cries of ghosts could be heard. The young girl was at a loss of what to do. She opened her eyes, and what appeared in front of her was an elegant young master. His eyes were black and white, and the starlight sword shadow in his palm slashed across. The 3 vein opening level 5 ghosts were all burned to ashes. This young master was very strong. When the young girl saw this person's face, she was shocked. Wasn't this the youth who cultivated the dual cultivation technique and had a powerful background? His name seemed to be Ning Fan, so that Ning Fan isn't just a playboy who relies on his ancestors, but also an expert. The girl's eyes lit up. But in the next moment, she shook her head forcefully. All her sisters said that Ning Fan was a pervert. Why did Ning Fan save her? Could it be that he wants to? The girl blushed and felt a little repulsed. But when she thought of what she had just said, she bit her lips. In his desperation, he seemed to have said that as long as someone saved him, he was willing to do anything. If Ning Fan were to touch her, should she resist? As a man, he couldn't go back on his words. The young girl was restless. Unfortunately, Ning Fan's did not even look at her. His eyes fell on the place where the 3 ghosts died. Seeing that there were no sense beads forming, he frowned slightly. He glanced sideways at the young girl, his expression unchanging. It was purely an accident that he saved the girl. In reality, he only wanted to kill the 3 ghosts and hunt for the sense beads. You shouldn't be here. After speaking in a cold tone, Ning Fan retracted his gaze. Without saying anything else, he turned around and left. He did not have the intention to do anything to the young lady. The young girl heaved a sigh of relief after Ning Fan left. Her chest was still heaving up and down. She finally confirmed one thing: Ning Fan was not only strong, but he was also not a lecherous thief like the rumors said. Moreover, the elegance of Ning Fan's sword was very attractive. Ning Fan didn't even ask for the young girl's name. It was just a small interlude in his trial. There were many passers-by in one's life. Who would fall in love with whom? Who would leave a photo for whom? He swallowed the separation slayer Starlight. Using the invisibility ability of the spirit equipment, he went straight to a remote place in the first region. At this moment, Ning Fan's body was covered with a faint smell of blood. His robe was a little tattered, but his eyes were sharper than ever before. After 4 hours of killing, Ning Fan's harvest was not small. The Separation Slayer sword had the soul-burning ability, and Ning Fan's cultivation was at the intermediate harmonious spirit realm. None of the ghosts in the first region could survive under his sword. However, there were still a few 10th-level vein-opening ghosts that self-destructed when they were on the brink of death, causing some injuries to Ning Fan's. Even a rabbit would bite in a desperate situation, not to mention those ferocious evil ghosts. After killing more than 300 ghosts, Ning Fan obtained 754 sect contribution points and 19 sense beads. As for the Separation Slayer sword, after killing a 10th-level vein-opening ghost, it advanced to the intermediate low rank. To Ning Fan's, the demon's sinister forest was the best place for trial. After 2 hours of killing, his magical power was almost depleted. It was time to restore his magical power and devour the sense beads. In the demon's sinister forest, Ning Fan's figure appeared next to a deserted stream. He took out the magical treasure formation plate that Lan Mei gave him and pointed his magical power at the center of the plate. A light blue light screen with the circumference of 100 zhang extended from the center of the formation plate. In the blink of an eye, a spirit rank formation was set up next to the stream. A spirit rank formation could defend against the attack of a harmonious spirit expert. In the first region, no one could break this formation. Sitting cross-legged in the middle of the formation, Ning Fan gently exhaled. He took out a few bottles of medicine and spirit recovering Dan to recover his injuries and magical power. At the same time, he was thinking about the enlightenment he gained from killing. The probability of the vein-opening ghosts in the first region forming sense beads was too low. Usually, one could only form one sense bead after killing dozens of them. And the ones that could produce sense beads were usually 7th-level vein-opening ghosts and above. Moreover, the higher the cultivation, the greater the spirit sense contained in the sense bead. Ning Fan pondered for a moment and made a conjecture. The higher the cultivation of the ghosts, the greater the chance of forming sense beads. Moreover, the power of the sense bead would be stronger. Hunting ghosts in the first region seemed to be a waste of time. In 2 hours, the higher-level vein-opening ghosts in the first region were all killed by him. What was left was an endless amount of first and second-level vein-opening ghosts. It was almost time to enter the second region. After half an hour of rest, Ning Fan's condition was fully restored. If he wanted to enter the second region and face harmonious spirit ghosts, it would be dangerous with just his intermediate harmonious spirit cultivation. If he encountered a peak harmonious spirit ghost that self-destructed, he would most likely be unable to withstand it. At the very least, he needed to have a late harmonious spirit cultivation to have a guarantee of safety. He took out the 19 sense beads. After a moment of contemplation, he began to refine them one by one. 1 bead, 2 beads. When he swallowed the 19th sense bead, Ning Fan's eyes suddenly opened. An invisible and tyrannical spirit sense spread out. Only 19 sense beads were able to double the size of his sea of consciousness. His spirit sense had reached the late harmonious spirit realm. Sensing the powerful medicinal effect of the sense beads, Ning Fan's eyes lit up. If he were to enter the second region and hunt for more sense beads of higher quality, his spirit sense might be able to break through to the gold core realm or even higher. Lan Mei gave him 2 bottles of Rising Spirit Dawn. 40 Rising Spirit Dawn were enough to raise the spirit of 20 meridians. Inside the cauldron ring, there were 17 cauldrons that he could pluck. Putting aside the gold core female cultivators, there were 15 harmonious spirit female cultivators. If he plucked them, he might be able to raise the spirit of the remaining 50 meridians in one go. Raising the spirit of 100 meridians would allow him to break through to the late harmonious spirit realm in one go. Ning Fan's eyes moved. Without hesitation, he flicked his sleeve and the cauldron ring flashed. In a split second, 15 delicate harmonious spirit female cultivators were lying on the ground, unconscious. Ning Fan's plucking finger moved and poked a few spots on each female cultivator's body. In an instant, all 15 of them were moaning in their sleep. Some of them were rubbing their chests with their bare hands while others had their fingers stretched between their legs. There was a flash of hesitation in Ning Fan's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by indifference. These female cultivators were his enemies. There was no need to show mercy. They are cauldrons. There is no need to have a reason to pluck them. Ning Fan took off his robe and coldly walked towards the unconscious female cultivators. The scene lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days later, his cultivation base broke through to the late harmonious spirit realm. When Meng Chu, the elder of the merit hall, reported the amount of merits Ning Fan had obtained, several harmonious spirit elders and countless deacons and disciples came to spectate. When they saw Ning Fan's merit points, all the old monsters were so surprised that they couldn't close their mouths. They only knew that Ning Fan's background was amazing, but they didn't know that he was an intermediate harmonious spirit expert. Naturally, they were shocked by Ning Fan's speed of earning merit points. In 2 hours, he had earned 754 merit points. These old monsters knew that even if they entered the demon sinister forest, they wouldn't be able to do it faster than Ning Fan's. This young man is extraordinary. Elderly sighed, not a trace of pride could be seen on him anymore. The genius disciple of his clan, Li Jihuan, was nothing in front of Ning Fan's. I'm interested in Ning Fan's again. Elder Chu, who was disdainful of Ning Fan's, just now smiled and paid more attention to Ning Fan's. However, she also understood that it was impossible for her to recruit Ning Fan's with her intermediate harmonious spirit cultivation base. No one knew Ning Fan's cultivation base, so they were naturally shocked. However, there was someone who knew Ning Fan's cultivation base. An old man with a white beard and eyebrows, a white robe and a white sword slowly entered the merit hall with his eyes closed. Behind him was a handsome young master in white robe. He was Bai Bai, who had a grudge with Ning Fan's. Seeing the old man enter, the experts of Sinister Sparrow sect in the merit hall became serious and saluted respectfully. Greetings, revered by. This snow-white old man was one of the 4 revered devils of Sinister Sparrow sect, an intermediate gold core revered by Fading. Regarding Ningfan's true cultivation base, all the gold core elders and above were well aware of it. That was why no one came to the merit hall. But this revered by came, which was quite thought-provoking. Fading nodded casually as a return to the greeting. His eyes fell on the merit stele and found Ningfan's position. A trace of disdain flashed across his eyes. Han Yuanji's disciple is just so. Intermediate harmonious spirit cultivation base and only earns 754 merit points in 2 hours. As soon as Fading said this, everyone in the merit hall sucked in a cold breath. That ordinary-looking young Ningfan was actually an intermediate harmonious spirit expert. How was this possible? But when they thought about how Ningfan earned 754 merit points in 2 hours and reached the intermediate harmonious spirit realm, it wasn't strange at all. An intermediate harmonious spirit cultivation base, yet he was competing with a vein opening junior. This kid is just trying to please the crowd. Fading smiled coldly and casually sat on a chair at the side. He and the old monster didn't get along well, so naturally, he didn't want to see the old monster's disciple in the limelight. However, Fading didn't expect that his sarcasm would make Ningfan even more famous. Ningfan's bone age couldn't be faked, he was only 17 years old. A 17-year-old intermediate harmonious spirit expert was considered a heaven's pride in the entire Yu country, or even the entire Rain immortal world. In Sinister Sparrow sect, most of the elders were only early and intermediate harmonious spirit. Now that they knew Ningfan's cultivation base, it would be hard for them to face him in the future. Everyone's attention towards Ningfan's didn't decrease, instead, it increased. They wanted to see how many merit points an intermediate harmonious spirit expert could earn in a month. However, they were destined to be disappointed, because for 3 days, Ningfan's contribution points didn't increase even a bit. On the contrary, Lu Ziqiao's contribution points had already reached 600 points after 3 days of continuous slaughter. He was about to catch up to Ningfan's. What is he doing? Why isn't his contribution points increasing? Everyone was puzzled. In these 3 days, every time Fading came to the merit hall, his eyes were filled with disdain. I've said it before, this kid is just trying to please the crowd by making a fuss. I'm afraid that Ningfan is seriously injured and is hiding somewhere, waiting for the end of the trial. Fading's words were obviously biased, but no one could refute him. If Ningfan wasn't hiding, then why didn't his contribution points increase for 3 days? Fading glanced at the merit and virtue monument, then he turned and left. However, the moment he turned around, the merit and virtue monument suddenly shone brightly. Ningfan's contribution points suddenly increased by 100 points, reaching 854 points. 100 points meant that he had killed an early harmonious spirit ghost, and harmonious spirit ghosts would only appear in the 2nd region. Impossible, this kid actually dared to enter the 2nd region? Does he not want to live anymore? Fading's expression changed. He didn't know Ningfan's combat strength, but his courage was as big as Han Yuanji's. With an intermediate harmonious spirit cultivation base, once he was surrounded by peak harmonious spirit ghosts in the 2nd region, he would die for sure. This kid will die for sure. Fading's expression turned solemn. Unknowingly, he no longer looked at Ningfan as a junior. There was no news from Ningfan for 3 whole days, making Lan Mei feel slightly uneasy. In her room, Lan Mei stopped circulating her magical power and exhaled softly. I wonder how Ningfan is doing. I've stolen Dad's map for him. I think he should be able to avoid a lot of dangers. Her cold face squeezed out a trace of a smile. Ningfan seemed to be saying that her smile was ugly and that she needed to practice it. While she was smiling foolishly in front of the mirror, she saw Claire, her personal maidservant, pushing the door open and panting. Lan Mei was so scared that she quickly stopped smiling and said unhappily, Kuer, why are you so rude? You came in without knocking, miss, something bad has happened. Young master has entered the second region of the demon sinister forest. The people in the Merit and Virtue Palace said that young master's contribution points increased by 100 points. He must have killed a powerful early harmonious spirit ghost. What? How could he be so reckless? Even gold core elders wouldn't easily enter the second region. Pa! The mirror fell to the ground. Lan Mei hurriedly stood up with anxious and worried eyes. Chapter 55. Their legs were muddy and blood-stained after being plucked. Their original harmonious spirit cultivation had fallen below the 5th level of vein opening. After plucking 15 female cultivators, Ning Fan broke through to the late harmonious spirit realm without even needing to take the rising spirit Dan. His original plan to concoct the scorching spirit Dan was also dispelled. A few of the 15 women were crying. Even evil cultivators were sad about losing their virginity. A few of them were rather unyielding. Their eyes were filled with hatred. As for the rest of them, they were either looking at Ning Fan with complicated gazes or some of them were filled with affection. However, no one spoke. The scene was very quiet. No matter what mood they were in, all of them wanted to know how Ning Fan would deal with them. They were originally human cauldrons and would eventually be plucked by others. But if they were plucked by their original master, Old Devil Purpleine, they would have a good ending even if their cultivation was greatly damaged. But now, 15 of them were plucked by Ning Fan, who was his enemy. Now that they had lost their cultivation, they no longer had any value to him. Perhaps, they would be killed. I hate you. A woman named Jiang Qiner who looked a little sickly looked at Ning Fan with resentment. Kill me if you want. A woman named Wu Macho had a heroic spirit in her eyes as if she wasn't afraid of death. Her slightly trembling body showed that she wasn't as brave as she looked. Lang Jun, if my daughter serves you, can you spare my life? Said a girl named Bai Jie. Her breasts were still pink and her eyes were watery. She seemed to be unsatisfied after being plucked by Ning Fan. 3 types of women, 3 types of reactions. No matter which type, none of them were willing to die. But Ning Fan's eyes were cold towards the 3 types of women. Although it was cold, there was no killing intent. From today onwards, all of you belong to me, but only as human cauldrons. However, if you are obedient, I won't kill you and won't send you to your death. Ning Fan's words were cold, but the 15 women heaved a sigh of relief when they heard it. At least, they didn't have to die. The way they looked at Ning Fan more or less contained a trace of gratitude. Without their primordial yin and cultivation, they were worthless as human cauldrons. Compared to those devil lords who threw them away after playing with them, Ning Fan at least left them a way out. When they thought about it again, they realized that they were the ones who wanted to kill Ning Fan in the first place. As his enemies, it was already very commendable that Ning Fan only plucked them without killing all of them. Next, I will plant a restrictive spell on all of you. You will stay in my magical treasure space and cultivate temporarily. If you are obedient, it is not impossible for you to cultivate back to the harmonious spirit realm. Perhaps, you will have a chance to form your gold core in this life. Yes, Master can spare our lives, so what if it's just a restriction? Regardless of whether the women thought so or not, their answers were quite unanimous. However, in their hearts, all of them were shocked. They were shocked that Ning Fan actually knew the sense restriction spell that only the ancient powers knew. After being taught a lesson by Si Wuxie, Ning Fan no longer dared to erase the memories of the women. Otherwise, if they were to rely on him like Si Wuxie, it would be hard to tell if he could still be cruel to them. Using the restrictive spell to control the death of the women without erasing their memories might be a better method for the cauldron. His cultivation broke through to the late harmonious spirit realm, and his spirit sense naturally reached the peak of harmonious spirit realm. Ning Fan released his spirit sense into the women's sea of consciousness and planted the restrictive spell on them. Then, he waved the cauldron ring and kept them inside. This time, the 15 women appeared in a larger space with red mist in the cauldron ring. There were flowers, grasses, mountains, rivers, and jade palaces. All of them were formed by the red mist. This was the first time they entered the cauldron ring with a clear mind. They never thought that there would be such a magical treasure space in this world. Rumor has it that there was a heavenly dwelling magical treasure in the ancient times. The space inside could accommodate living beings and could evolve into a boundless world. It was a rare treasure. However, that was only a legend. The spatial magical treasures in the cultivation world were pitifully small and couldn't be used by people. What is the master's origin? He is only a harmonious spirit cultivator, but he has a legendary heavenly dwelling magical treasure. The women were surprised. The red mist in front of them was obviously very helpful to their cultivation. Cultivating in the red mist was several times faster than cultivating in the outside world. The joyous union iron was a divine material that was lost in the ancient times. It was definitely a great fortune for Ning Fan to obtain it by chance and use it to refine a heavenly dwelling magical treasure like the cauldron ring. Whether they loved or hated Ning Fan or had ulterior motives, after seeing the mysterious cauldron ring, no one had any hostility towards Ning Fan. Even if they had hostility, they would hide it deeply. I will stay here for the time being. Since I have become Master's Cauldron, I will have to adapt to this identity. These 15 women were just the beginning. After dispersing the grand formation, Ning Fan closed his eyes and stood beside the stream. Life didn't give him a choice. Ever since he obtained the yin-yang transformation, his evil identity couldn't be written down. Perhaps one day, he would be condemned by thousands of people and be cursed by tens of thousands of people. Perhaps one day, all the women in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds would show fear and disgust after hearing Ning Fan's name. No matter what I become, Jihe won't despise me. Master won't hate me. Perhaps, Si Wuxia and Lan Mei won't either. Rubbing his forehead, he suppressed all the distracting thoughts. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. There was a flash of light in his eyes. There wasn't a trace of dispiritedness in them anymore. Since I am a devil, I will be a true devil that the heavens and earth fear. Next, I will go to the 2nd region. With a leap, his body turned into an icy rainbow and went straight to the 2nd region. After flying for 30 li, he stopped and saw layers of black mist in front of him. Vaguely, there was a spatial force circulating in the mist. According to the map, the 2nd region of the demon's sinister forest was inside the mist. Because of the spatial force of the formation, the space inside the mist was at least a few thousand li, which was much smaller than the 1st region. Inside the mist, there were nearly 10,000 harmonious spirit ghost chi that sent chills down Ning Fan's spine. Among the 10,000 ghost chi, there were hundreds of chi that gave Ning Fan a vague sense of danger. Peak harmonious spirit. There were at least hundreds of peak harmonious spirit ghosts in the 2nd region. If Ning Fan hadn't broken through to the late harmonious spirit realm, it would have been extremely dangerous for him to enter the 2nd region. He took a deep breath and stepped into the black mist. With a flash of light, he was teleported to a world that was as red as blood. The place he was at now was a gloomy blood-red peach forest. As soon as he appeared, he saw an early harmonious spirit ghost. It had the body of a woman, but it had a green face and sharp fangs. It was still a ghost head. A harmonious spirit ghost could transform into a human form, but it couldn't completely transform yet. It still had the characteristics of a ghost. Once a ghost broke through to the gold core realm, it could even transform into a human form like a beautiful female ghost. It could bewitch the common people and devour their yang essence. An early harmonious spirit ghost wasn't a threat to Ning Fan. He opened his mouth and the starlight sword shadow flew out. The separation slayer penetrated the ghost's body and burned it into nothingness. After withdrawing the sword shadow, Ning Fan reached out his hand and took out a sense bead from the destroyed haunted house. It was still the size of a finger and had a trace of blood-red color. Its spirit sense was more than 10 times stronger than the vein-opening sense bead. Ning Fan's eyes lit up. It seemed like coming to the second region was the right choice. In the second region, not only could he sharpen his strength through life and death battles, he could also obtain sense beads to increase his spirit sense to a terrifying level. Gold core spirit sense is probably enough for me to break through. I wonder how many sense beads I need to devour to break through to the nascent soul spirit sense realm. If someone was here and heard Ning Fan's words, they would surely be shocked. Ning Fan wanted to break through to the nascent soul spirit sense realm in the demon sinister forest. Once he succeeded, no one in the entire Yu country would be able to surpass him in terms of spirit sense. However, Ning Fan didn't know that his action of killing an early harmonious spirit ghost had earned him 100 contribution points. This had shocked the Sinister Sparrow sect, revered by and Lan Mei. He activated his spirit equipment to hide himself and carefully hunted the ghosts in the second region. As for the Merit Hall, his contribution points were increasing at a frightening speed. Look, Ning Fan's contribution points increased again. It has broken through 2,154 points. Doesn't this mean that he has killed 14 early harmonious spirit ghosts? How is this possible? Even an intermediate harmonious spirit expert like me can't kill an early harmonious spirit ghost so easily. Elder Meng Chu stared at the Merit Monument. He had been guarding the monument for 200 years and he had never felt this unbelievable. 2,354 points. He actually killed an intermediate harmonious spirit ghost. One of the female deacons exclaimed in astonishment. But it was far from over. 2554, 2754, 2954 Ning Fan's contribution points were unstoppable. In just half an hour, his contribution points had increased several times. His.at this moment, all the elders who were below the intermediate harmonious spirit realm sucked in a breath of cold air. If Ning Fan could kill an intermediate harmonious spirit ghost in a row, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill them. Revered by Feiting's face darkened while Bai was holding his breath in disbelief. He was only an early harmonious spirit expert, but Ning Fan could kill an intermediate ghost as if it was child's play. What was the benefit of offending Ning Fan? Why did he have to go against him? Outside the Merit Hall, Lan Mei anxiously dragged Sinister Sparrow into the hall. Dad, please help us to enter the Demon Sinister Forest and bring Ning Fan out of the second region. Since when did my Mei become so interested in a man? Don't worry, Ning Fan is Han Yuanji's disciple after all. He is a schemer. If he dares to enter the second region, he must be confident. Sinister Sparrow said so, but his eyes fell on the Merit Monument. He couldn't help but feel surprised. He knew that from the harmonious spirit realm onwards, the intelligence of the ghosts would increase. In a place like the Demon Sinister Forest, the magical power of the ghosts seemed to be enhanced. It wasn't easy for a harmonious spirit cultivator to defeat a ghost of the same realm. Not to mention killing it. Ning Fan, on the other hand, continued to kill the ghosts without any rest or time to recover his magical power. After his contribution points reached 4,154 points, Ning Fan seemed to have rested for a day as his contribution points stopped increasing. However, Sinister Sparrow had a vague feeling that Ning Fan was recovering to his peak condition and was going to do something shocking. If he can kill a late harmonious spirit ghost, he will become a heaven's pride. Sinister Sparrow touched his chin and his expression gradually turned solemn. Based on his understanding of Ning Fan, he knew that Ning Fan was going to do something big since he took a day to recover his physical strength. He guessed that Ning Fan was going to kill a late harmonious spirit ghost, but the fact was far beyond his expectation. Ning Fan's contribution points, which had been untouched for a day, suddenly jumped by a large margin. From 4,154 points, it had increased to 5,154 points. It was a total increase of 1,000 contribution points. 1,000 points could only be obtained by killing a peak harmonious spirit ghost. Impossible. Even I can't kill a peak harmonious spirit ghost. How could this brat kill one with his harmonious spirit cultivation? Bai Feidong couldn't sit still anymore. For the first time in his life, he felt that he had underestimated Ning Fan. Will this brat kill a gold core cultivator? Will he enter the third region? Bai Feidong's white eyebrows knitted together. An absurd thought gradually emerged in his mind. Chapter 57. Then, the white bone demon monarch's angry roar was heard. Meiji, how dare you seal your cultivation and escape to a low-grade formation? But do you really think that I have no way to deal with you? White bone Dao, broken bone soldiers. With a loud rumble, the white bone demon monarch shattered one of its ribs. That rib instantly turned into a void refinement realm bone demon and chased after the woman. Do you think you can escape from me if you don't hand over the Emperor's Soul Remnant Scroll? As long as you don't leave the demon sinister forest, you have nowhere to run. If this void fragmentation battle were to spread, the whole Rain Immortal world would be shocked. After all, the white bone demon monarch's true strength wasn't any weaker than Moksha Emperor of the Devil World. Ning Fan didn't know about this at all. It should be said that with his weak cultivation, he wouldn't be able to participate in the feud between void fragmentation experts. In just half a day, Ning Fan had concocted a cauldron of pills. The moment he opened the cauldron, the fragrance of pills filled the air. There were almost 100 golden pills in the cauldron. At this moment, Bing Ling and Yu Ling were both shocked. Even a third revolution pill master couldn't concoct 100 second revolution pills in one cauldron. Could it be that Ning Fan was a fourth revolution pill master? Ning Fan himself was shocked when he saw that there were 100 pills in one cauldron of pills. He had put 100 sets of ingredients into the Dan fragmentation cauldron. With his fourth revolution pill concoction technique, he would be a laughing stock if he concocted the second revolution pills one by one. When he was in 7 Apricot City, he concocted the third revolution Sun Moon pill at the same time. However, he used a few hundred sets of ingredients that day, so the success rate wasn't high. If it was before he entered the demon sinister forest, he would be lucky if he could concoct 80 soul nourishing pills out of 100 sets of ingredients. But now, he didn't fail in concocting a second revolution pill, so he was surprised. But after thinking for a while, he understood why his success rate was so high. Firstly, he had broken through to the late harmonious spirit realm, so his magical power had increased tremendously. Secondly, his spirit sense had reached the peak of harmonious spirit realm, so he could control his concoction fire more easily. Enhancing one's divine sense might not be able to directly enhance one's combat power, but it would definitely be of great help to one's perception, alchemy, and craftsmanship. He took a deep breath and put away the elixir. He put away the Dan fragmentation cauldron and swallowed the soul-nourishing elixir. Under the nourishment of the soul-nourishing elixir, he swallowed the sense beads to refine his soul power. Bing Ling and Yu Ling had no idea what prayer beads were. After all, they had never entered the demon sinister forest before. However, they could tell that the divine sense contained within the beads was extremely powerful. An ordinary cultivator's body would not be able to withstand the soul power backlash. Only Ning Fan's body refinement realm with silver light could consume one or two of them. In the past, the experts of Sinister Sparrow's sect who entered the demon sinister forest didn't dare to consume the sense bead even if they discovered its magical properties. 1 bead, 2 beads. After consuming the 10th sense bead, Ning Fan's spirit sense had broken through the limit of false core realm. He was only a sliver away from breaking through to gold core spirit sense. His sea of consciousness gradually turned golden. A golden sea of consciousness could only be possessed by a core formation old monster. Holding the last sense bead in his hand, it was from a peak harmonious spirit ghost. He took a deep breath and swallowed it without hesitation. All of a sudden, a violent spirit sense force exploded in Ning Fan's sea of consciousness, causing his face to turn pale in an instant. Blood flowed out from his mouth and nose. His face was filled with shock. A peak harmonious spirit sense bead and a late harmonious spirit one were two completely different concepts. Unless his sea of consciousness was as strong as a gold core cultivator, he wouldn't be able to withstand the backlash of the sense bead. Without hesitation, Ning Fan grabbed a handful of soul-nourishing elixirs and swallowed them like a cow chewing on a peony. It was definitely a waste to consume soul-nourishing elixirs like this. He was afraid that he wouldn't even be able to use half of its medicinal power, but Ning Fan couldn't afford to be frugal. After swallowing more than 10 soul-nourishing elixirs, Bing Ling and Yu Ling couldn't close their mouths. The two girls had never seen such a domineering way of consuming elixirs. Even old devil Purple Een only consumed second revolution elixirs one by one and slowly refined them. More than 10 second revolution elixirs dissolved in his body at the same time. Ning Fan's yin-yang evil veins felt a swelling pain, but his eyes revealed a ruthless expression. As if a layer of membrane was broken, there was a soul-shattering pain in his sea of consciousness. However, this pain that was enough to make a gold core old devil pale only made the veins on his forehead bulge. There was no other reaction. What kind of pain could compare to the second Jade Royal Dan? After that day of pain cleansing, there was nothing that could make Ning Fan's cry out. "Break through for me." He roared and channeled his spirit sense towards his sea of consciousness, forcing it to be absorbed by the sea of consciousness. The violent spirit sense entered Ning Fan's sea of consciousness and gradually calmed down. A tyrannical spirit sense pressure shot out from Ning Fan's eyes and swept across 100 zhang radius, as if it was real. Early gold core spirit sense. After withdrawing his spirit sense, Ning Fan's robe was already soaked with sweat. His robe was torn beyond recognition. He took off his robe in front of the two girls and changed into a white robe. He then put on a black cloak, which coincided with the two words yin and yang. After changing his robe, Ning Fan immediately sat cross-legged without saying a word and focused on stabilizing his spirit sense. The spirit sense that had just broken through was still unstable. If it wasn't stable, it wouldn't be strange for it to fall back to harmonious spirit sense. He actually broke through to gold core spirit sense at harmonious spirit realm. Yu Ling's beautiful eyes revealed shock. She didn't care about Ning Fan's naked act. On the other hand, Bing Ling already knew that Ning Fan's could break through to gold core spirit sense, but she didn't expect Ning Fan's to be so daring to change his clothes in front of the two girls. The two sisters, on the other hand, had completely different personalities. "Congratulations, Master, for breaking through to the next level of spirit sense." The two girls' soft congratulatory voice sounded. It didn't matter if it was sincere or not, what needed to be said had to be said. However, Ning Fan's mind was focused on stabilizing his spirit sense and didn't have the time to care about the two girls. Or perhaps, his mind was guarding the top of his head and couldn't hear anything from the outside world. The two girls respectfully stepped back to avoid disturbing Ning Fan's and guarded him carefully. The strength of his spirit sense had already reached early gold core at the age of 17. The two girls had a trace of sincere admiration for Ning Fan's. They even started to believe that Ning Fan's would surpass Purple Een Old Devil in the future. After all, Purple Een Old Devil's spirit sense would only reach early gold core at the age of 200. It was self-evident that Ning Fan's aptitude was far superior to Purple Een. Perhaps it wasn't a bad thing to follow Ning Fan's. "Sister, what should we do in the future?" Yu Ling asked quietly. "What else can we do? Since we have already recognized our master as a slave, we can only accept it even if we become his cauldron. At this moment, we will protect our master." While Bing Ling was speaking, the entire spirit realm grand formation suddenly shook. No, it wasn't the grand formation that shook, but the entire second region of the demon sinister forest. A small black sable covered in blood leaped into the formation, completely ignoring the defense of the spirit realm grand formation. The two girls' expressions changed. They held their swords and slashed at the small sable, but the small sable leaped and dodged their attacks. That small sable had such a fast speed. Moreover, it seemed to have the magical power of an early harmonious spirit cultivator. However, due to its severe injuries, its magical power was unstable. The small sable seemed to be holding something in its mouth. Its beastly eyes carried the charm of a woman. The small sable didn't even look at the two gold core female cultivators. Its eyes fell on Ning Fans, who was sitting cross-legged in meditation. It revealed a look of despair and instinctively jumped into Ning Fan's arms. Then, it fainted and no longer had the strength to run. Black blood flowed out from the wounds all over its body, staining the robe that Ning Fans had just changed into. Fortunately, the sable was focused on escaping and didn't have any hostility towards Ning Fans. Otherwise, if it bit, Ning Fan's spirit sense would be unstable and fall from the gold core realm. This small sable is a yellow spring sable. Legend has it that it only lives in the netherworld. It can eat ghosts to nourish its strength. I didn't think that there would be such a demonic beast in this world. The two girls felt guilty. They were two gold core cultivators, but they couldn't stop a mere harmonious spirit demonic beast, allowing it to enter the grand formation and fall into Ning Fan's arms. Fortunately, the sable didn't disturb Ning Fan's spirit sense. Otherwise, the two girls wouldn't be able to absolve themselves from the blame. Not long after the small sable entered the grand formation, the sound of mountains collapsing and the earth cracking came from afar. A white bone devil that was more than 10 zhang tall rumbled towards them. Each step it took would cause the earth to shake. His devilish roar sent chills down the spines of countless harmonious spirit ghosts. This ghost was only at the peak of harmonious spirit realm, but it seemed harder to deal with than a gold core old devil. And its devil roar could subdue nearly 10,000 ghosts. What was the identity of this white bone devil? The white bone devil seemed to have followed the yellow spring sable all the way here. When it saw the spirit grand formation, it revealed a sneer. Meiji, you are seriously injured and on the verge of death. If you continue to seal your cultivation and run towards the first region, perhaps I won't be able to catch up. I didn't think that you would hide in a mere spirit grand formation. Aren't you looking down on me? Break. The white bone devil pointed its finger and the cave collapsed. The 100 zhang spirit grand formation was shattered. Bing Ling and Yu Ling were shocked. Even an early gold core old devil couldn't break a spirit grand formation with just one finger. Sister, you go and protect master. I will deal with this devil. We must delay him until he wakes up. Bing Ling gritted her teeth. Ning Fan's mental seal was planted in her body. Her life and death were tied together with Ning Fan's. How could she watch Ning Fan's die? She didn't have time to think about why the devil appeared and why it attacked the grand formation. There was only one thought in her mind, and that was to stop the devil from attacking Ning Fans. She was a gold core expert. Even if she couldn't kill the devil, it shouldn't be hard for her to stop it. Dan transformation technique, falling ice water arrow. She took out a small blue arrow and blew a mouthful of Dan chi. The small arrow, which was a middle-grade and early-stage magic treasure, turned into thousands of icy arrows in the air and shot towards the white bone devil. This rain of arrows might not be enough to hurt a gold core expert, but it was more than enough to kill a harmonious spirit expert. However, when the arrows hit the devil's body, there was a clear sound of metal colliding. None of the arrows could break the defense of the devil's skeletal body. Bing Ling's beautiful face turned pale. She realized that she had underestimated the devil. As for the devil, it was startled when it saw the two delicate gold core female cultivators. Then, it revealed a sneer. Gold core human, I haven't tasted such delicious food for a long time. How nostalgic. The giant demon smiled and pointed out with a finger. A dignified low-grade magic treasure actually exploded. Then, he pressed down with another finger and sent Bing Ling flying. She coughed up blood and fell to the ground. She had lost half of her life, and she fainted. Sister! Tears fell from Yuling's eyes. She stood up angrily, but the devil laughed and pointed its finger again. It was about to hurt Yuling. As for Yuling, she closed her eyes in pain. She held the sword in her hand horizontally. She was determined to fight the devil. Bitter, too bitter. So living was such a painful thing. She was captured into the devil's sect when she was young. She became a human cauldron when she was young. Then, she fell into the enemy's hands and was planted with a mental seal. Yuling could endure all the sufferings. But if her sister died, what was the point of living? Smelly devil, I will kill you. Yuling was always so impulsive and willful. At the moment of her death, Ning Fans, who was sitting cross-legged, finally stabilized his spirit sense. He looked at the unconscious Sable in his arms and frowned. Then, he looked at Bing Ling, who was severely injured, Yuling, who was risking her life, and the arrogant devil. His eyes turned cold. He didn't expect that a ghost would come and cause trouble while he was in seclusion. Where did this devil come from? How dare you hurt my human cauldron? The icy light under his feet moved. He soared into the sky and held Yuling's slender waist with one hand while his other hand was shrouded in silver light. He threw a punch at the devil's iron fist. Boom! The powerful force of the collision spread out. The plants within 100 zhang radius were instantly razed to the ground. After the two fists collided, Ning Fan fell to the ground and stood in front of the unconscious Bing Ling. His eyes were slightly shocked. His fist was badly mutilated by the white bone devil. This devil has such a strong physical body. How could there be such a powerful devil in the second region? As for the white bone devil, it was the first time that his eyes flashed with surprise since he entered the second region. He didn't expect that the weak young man in front of him could block his finger with a late harmonious spirit cultivation. Chapter 58. Although the white bone devil in front of him was only a peak harmonious spirit expert, it had a kind of condensed qi. Under that qi, the void within a radius of 1,000 zhang vaguely fluctuated and cracked. The blood-red mist within 1,000 zhang seemed to be locked by the qi of the devil and couldn't move. The more Ning Fan looked at the devil, the more shocked he was. Even with his immortal emperor-level murderous intent, he felt a little uncomfortable facing the devil. Void fragmentation. Almost in an instant, two words flashed in Ning Fan's mind and his face turned ugly. Why would he encounter a void fragmentation ghost in the second region? Although this ghost's qi was as strong as a void fragmentation ghost, it didn't conceal its magical power. It was indeed a peak harmonious spirit expert. That's right, the cultivation of the ghosts in the Nine Yin land was restricted by the formation. High-level ghosts couldn't break into the low-level formation. Perhaps this devil was a void fragmentation old monster of a high-level formation. It used some kind of divine ability to break into the low-level formation for some purpose. Perhaps it was a seal, an incarnation, or some other means. Thinking of this, the shock in Ning Fan's eyes gradually receded. Although there was still fear, there was no longer a trace of fear. As long as this devil didn't come with its true body, it might be possible to kill it. Ning Fan's eyes changed from shock to fear, then to calmness and battle intent. The white bone devil's eyes narrowed when it saw the change in Ning Fan's expression. This kid was afraid of me at first because he saw through my void fragmentation identity. Then, he stopped because he saw that I wasn't the true body. This kid's cultivation isn't high, but his eyesight is amazing. He might be hiding something. I can't underestimate him. Almost at the same time, the devil and Ning Fan realized that the other party wasn't a kind person. At the next moment, both of them used their strongest technique at the same time. White Bone Dao, Dance of the Early Fern. Sword transformation into fire. Ning Fan shook the cauldron ring and kept the two girls inside. At the same time, he stepped on an icy rainbow and soared into the sky. He held the unconscious little sable in one hand and slashed at the devil. However, the Separation Slayer couldn't break through the white bone defense. On the other hand, the rebounding force made Ning Fan's thumb and forefinger numb. In the next instant, the giant demon fiercely stomped his foot, causing the earth to violently tremble. Tens of thousands of bone spikes that were as sharp as spears and halberds shot out from the ruins. They were like ferns in full bloom, rising into the sky and piercing thousands of feet, as if they wanted to pierce through the heavens. Each of the bone spikes could easily pierce through an early mid-grade armor. Ning Fan's back felt a chill, and he activated the stealth headband without hesitation, but it disappeared without a trace. The countless bone spikes seemed to have lost their target and didn't know where to stab. Ning Fan dodged the attack, but a dozen innocent harmonious spirit ghosts on the ground were drawn into the range of the bone spikes and were annihilated. Invisibility spiritual equipment, Insignificant skill. Roar. The giant devil's eyes were filled with disdain. It let out a strange roar. The sound wave was so strong that it created ripples in heaven and earth wherever it passed. When Ning Fan's body was hit by the ripples, his expression changed. Although this bone devil's cultivation was only at the peak of harmonious spirit realm, its magical abilities were incomparable to his. Even though he was at the late harmonious spirit realm, he only had a few techniques that couldn't deal with many situations. As for the bone devil, when it saw that Ning Fan's techniques were ordinary, its fear weakened. It waved its giant palm and slapped Ning Fan back to the ground. Put down the yellow spring sable and I will let you go. The giant demon sneered with boundless arrogance, but he had the qualification to be arrogant. In the demon's sinister forest, he was already a peak-level ghost emperor. Who could be his enemy? To be honest, Ning Fan really didn't want to provoke a giant demon ghost in the trial. If the giant demon didn't injure Bing Ling, Ning Fan might be willing to put down the yellow spring sable to reduce the trouble. However, the giant demon's finger had injured Bing Ling. Ning Fan didn't have a good impression of Bing Ling, but she was injured because of protecting him. If she didn't risk her life to stop the giant demon, he was afraid that he would be the one injured. His eyes turned cold. He waved his palm and took out a brand new scabbard to contain little Dugu's second sword chi. This sword chi could only be comprehended by a gold core cultivator. Fortunately, he had broken through to the gold core spirit sense realm, so it wouldn't be difficult for him to comprehend the sword chi. Moreover, the body refining realm with the silver light was enough to withstand the sword chi. Ning Fan wanted to draw out this sword chi and use it to break the giant demon's physical defense. There was no doubt that the giant demon was a ghost. Ghosts were soul bodies, but he had cultivated a skeletal body and used white bones to wrap his soul body to protect his body from harm. As long as he could break the giant demon's white bone defense, the Separation Slayer's soul-burning ability would be more than enough to incinerate the harmonious spirit divine soul of the giant demon. He crushed the scabbard with his palm. A disgusting sword intent that reeked of blood spread out from Ning Fan's body. Dugu's first sword was to transform the sword into fire. The mysterious part was the transformation of the sword chi and the fire spirit, which contained the essence of materialization. Dugu's second sword was to use killing as a sword. The person who comprehended this sword must first have a heart as hard as stone, otherwise, he would be devoured by the killing intent. Secondly, he must accumulate killing intent in the endless slaughter. Thirdly, he needed to cultivate diligently in order to completely master it. Ning Fan had both a heart of stone and killing intent. The only thing he lacked was diligent cultivation. But even if it was his first time using it, it was more than enough to break the defense of the harmonious spirit giant demon's skeletal body. The moment Ning Fan crushed the scabbard, the white bone demon's eyes twitched in shock. The Sword Ancestor's secret sword. Who are you to the Sword Ancestor? The White Bone Demon was a void fragmentation expert and a ghost emperor, but because of a mere gold core sword chi, it recalled an extremely horrifying memory. In the memory, it seemed to be a distant ancient time. There was an awe-inspiring woman who used the long sword in her hand to slaughter countless gods and devils. If I break my sword, there will be no martial arts in this world. Then, the fear turned into a twisted hatred. The young man in front of him could use the secret sword, so he might be that person's descendant. The reason why he died and was planted in the land of Nine Een and raised as a ghost was all because of that woman. I want to kill her descendant. Kill, kill, kill. The giant demon's eyes turned from dark green to blood red. A crazed killing intent rose in his heart. However, Ning Fan turned a blind eye to all of this. His left hand was holding the unconscious small sable while his right hand was holding the starlight sword shadow. His eyes were closed and his heart was immersed in the blood-red sword chi. Ning Fan didn't know who the sword ancestor was and whether he was the ancestor of the little girl Dugu. He only saw white bones in the blood-red sword chi. He held the sword and stood in the sea of blood while facing a woman whose face couldn't be seen. She coldly wielded the sword and killed all the gods and devils. These exquisite scenes turned into a small poem in Ning Fan's heart. White bones like a mountain, forgetting the surname, it's none other than the young master and Hong Zhuang, the woman with the red makeup, young master Xiao Mo, and one sword out of the dust, 10,000 withered bones. At this moment, Ning Fan opened his eyes. Without uttering a single word, he stepped on the icy light and pointed his sword chi at the top of the 10 zhang tall giant devil's head with a ray of starlight. The second sword. White bones like a mountain. Under this sword, the giant demon felt a trace of danger for the first time. This sense of danger made him even crazier. He almost forgot his original purpose of coming here, which was to catch a small sable. He gathered all of his magical power at the tip of his finger and fiercely pressed the white bone finger towards Ning Fan. This finger was enough to kill an early gold core expert, but why would Ning Fan be afraid? Ning Fan's murderous intent turned into a blood-red light at the tip of the separation slayer. The light was very faint, but it carried a trace of sword intent that even gold core experts feared. It fiercely stabbed the giant demon's fingertip. A huge force traveled along the separation slayer to Ning Fan's chest, breaking a few of his ribs and causing him to spurt out a mouthful of blood. After swallowing the sweet blood, Ning Fan pushed the separation slayer into the giant demon's body. As soon as the blood came into contact with the giant demon's finger, a bloody hole was formed. This scene was out of the giant demon's expectation. It was as if a bucket of ice water was poured on his head, clearing his mind. The bone body that was strong enough to withstand an early gold core attack was broken. The fearless Ning Fan in front of him was like a mad dog that would make anyone afraid. What happened next was even more unexpected to the giant demon. A blazing heat flowed through the gap in the giant finger, wrapping around the giant demon's soul body that was hidden in the valley. It turned into an invisible flame that began to fiercely burn the ghost soul. At this moment, the giant demon showed a horrified expression for the first time. He couldn't believe his eyes. A shrill scream rose to the sky. The scream made all the ghosts in the second region cry out. At the same time, in the seventh region of the demon sinister forest, a 10,000 zhang tall bone demon felt that his clone was killed. He let out a furious roar. My clone was killed. Which ghost is so bold to kill my clone in the demon sinister forest? Find out who the culprit is and tear him into pieces. Also, we must not let that old hag Mei Ji escape from the demon sinister forest. Mobilize all the ghosts in the demon sinister forest to seal the first 7 regions. Kill all the outsiders without mercy. Chapter 59. The entire demon sinister forest had become extremely dangerous because of Bone Sovereign's order. Unknowingly, Ning Fan had offended the supreme figures of the demon sinister forest. The entire giant demon's soul was incinerated, leaving behind only a giant skeleton that was dozens of feet tall. A single sword strike cut through the void fragmentation realm. Even though it was only a harmonious spirit avatar of a void fragmentation old devil, Ning Fan was still excited. The other party was a void fragmentation old monster with a peak harmonious spirit cultivation base. His knowledge, magical power and means were not any weaker than his ancient chaos memories. But he still won. For the first time, confidence rose in his heart. If he had a void fragmentation realm cultivation base, he would not be afraid of Moksha's sovereign at all. Even if he had the strength of a peak void refinement realm cultivator, he would also dare to challenge Moksha's sovereign. Void fragmentation realm experts were not invincible. He opened his mouth to swallow the sword and landed on the ground. He looked at the huge white skeleton with a strange light in his eyes. This white bone was a rare treasure. Now that Ning Fan took a closer look at it, he could see that it was a piece of rib bone of a void fragmentation expert. It was extraordinarily hard. It was only because a small piece of white bone had transformed into a giant body that the density of the white bone had decreased and lost its power. His eyes flickered as he pointed his finger at the white skeleton giant. The huge skeleton slowly turned into a piece of white bone the size of a thumb, sparkling and translucent like jade. It was just a piece of white bone, but its hardness was countless times stronger than before. Even if a nascent soul cultivator used all his means, he still wouldn't be able to break this small piece of white bone. This white bone was perfect for refining the Separation Slayer. Separation Slayer used Gungjin as its blade, Thunder Silver as its tip, and Earth Steel as its bones. The sword bones of the Earth Steel were obviously not as sturdy as the white bones of the Void Fragmentation realm. If he could refine the Earth Steel and fuse it with the Void Fragmentation white bone, Ning Fan was confident that his Separation Slayer would become a mid-grade magical treasure. Once a primordial mystical weapon broke through to middle grade, other than training and slaying enemies, there would be a brand new advancement method, Spirit Devouring. The Spirit of Mountain Devouring, the Spirit of Sea Devouring, the Spirit of Earth Vein Devouring. The spirits of heaven and earth were all forged into my sword. Only then can it be called an immemorial divine weapon. Ning Fan smiled faintly and kept the small white bone into his storage pouch. Now was not the time to reforge the Separation Slayer. The most important thing was to recover from his injuries. Ning Fan's injuries were definitely not light after taking on Bone Devil's attack head-on. Bing Ling's injuries were even more serious. Ning Fan's eyes turned solemn. Bing Ling was injured because of him, but he could not bear to watch her die. It wouldn't be too difficult to save Bing Ling, but his relationship with Bing Ling would become inexplicable again. Let's take it one step at a time. Let's go back into secluded meditation. This time, I'll set up a core level formation. I can't be stingy with immortal jade anymore. If such a powerful devil appeared again, without a core level array formation, it would be extremely dangerous. This time, I'll be in seclusion for at least 3 days. It looks like I won't be able to get any contribution points for the next 3 days. Ning Fan took out the jade plate and casually glanced at it. At the next moment, his face was filled with astonishment. He saw that the contribution points on the contribution jade plate were no longer 5,154, but 2005154. If Ning Fan's eyesight was not blurred, his contribution points would have increased by 2 million points. Why did killing a peak harmonious spirit giant devil increase his contribution points by 2 million points? Just as he was puzzled, he saw that his sect contribution points flashed and changed to 5,154 points. Then, with another flash, it changed to 6,154 points. He shook his head. It seemed like the registration of the 2 million points was wrong. He stopped thinking about it and began to use tens of thousands of immortal jade to lock the formation eye and draw the formation diagram with his spirit sense. Along the entire stream, he set up a large formation that stretched for tens of li. It was much easier to set up the formation with gold core spirit sense. But was there really a mistake in the jade plate? There was no mistake in the registration of the jade plate. That white bone devil was a clone created by Bone Sovereign using the ability turning broken bones into soldiers. When the clone was first summoned, it was indeed an early void refinement expert. It chased after Meiji into the 6th region. After that, Meiji sealed her own cultivation base and fled to the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd region. The clone also sealed his own cultivation base until he reached the harmonious spirit realm and chased after her to the 2nd region. An early void refinement ghost was worth 2 million contribution points. However, no one knew about this. Only the sect masters of Sinister Sparrow sect knew something about it. In the Merit Palace, Ning Fan's contribution points increased by 2 million points. The whole sect was dumbfounded. The highest contribution points recorded in Sinister Sparrow's sect was only a peak gold core ghost which was worth 15,000 contribution points. A higher level ghost that reached the nascent soul realm was the Ghost King. No one had ever killed one before. No one knew why Ning Fan's contribution points increased by 2 million points. This was simply a joke. What level of ghost did he need to kill to get 2 million points? There must be something wrong with the Merit Monument. Sigh, after using it for so many generations, there's bound to be something wrong. Elder Meng Chu's forehead was covered in sweat because many people were pointing at him, thinking that it was his fault for not looking after the Merit Monument properly. 2 million contribution points. How is this possible? If this Ning Fan can really get 2 million contribution points, I will give my position of revered white to him. Bai Feidong's eyes were filled with displeasure. He only had 97 million contribution points and was ranked 5th in the sect. But just now, Ning Fan's contribution points had exceeded 2 million, pushing him down to the 6th place. Bai Feidong's face turned pale. He had risked his life to accumulate contribution points for hundreds of years, but now he was being outdone by Ning Fan? What a joke! There's something wrong with the Merit Monument. Bai Feidong firmly believed it. The other elders also thought the same. I bet that there's something wrong with the Merit Monument. If there's nothing wrong with it, I'll use my dick to walk. A bare-chested burly man laughed, disapproving of the Merit Monument. People always took things that they couldn't understand for granted. When mortals said that there were no ghosts in this world, cultivators sneered. When cultivators said that there were no true immortals in this world, the immortals of the 4 heavens sneered. Sect Master, please correct the Merit Monument. Bai Feidong cupped his fists and bowed to Sinister Sparrow. The other elders followed suit. Seeing that Ning Fan had picked up a great bargain and gained 2 million contribution points in just a few days, his merit points had entered the top 5 of the sect. Who wouldn't be jealous? Who would be convinced? Only Sinister Sparrow knew that the Merit Monument wouldn't make a mistake. It was made by the old ancestor of the upper world, Kei Shensi, using his great divine ability to keep it in the next world. It had been used for millions of years and had never made a mistake. But if the Merit Monument wasn't wrong, Sinister Sparrow couldn't imagine what level of ghost Ning Fan had killed in the Demon Sinister Forest. Every sect master had some understanding of the forbidden area of the Demon Sinister Forest. They knew that there were ghosts that were beyond the nascent soul and spirit severing realm. 2 million contribution points. If it's not a spirit severing ghost, then it must be a void refinement ghost. What has Ning Fan done in the Demon Sinister Forest? Can't he just let us worry about him? He hasn't even officially entered the sect yet. Sinister Sparrow didn't tell anyone about this. He just acted according to everyone's wishes and changed Ning Fan's contribution points on the Merit Monument. He changed 2005154 to 6154. That was all. However, Sinister Sparrow couldn't be as calm as he looked. He suddenly felt that letting Ning Fan enter the Demon Sinister Forest was a huge mistake. This kid might cause some big trouble in the demon's sinister forest. Hopefully, he wouldn't touch any secrets. Otherwise, that kid wouldn't be able to come back even if he had 10 lives. What a troublesome kid. I'm afraid that he has more secrets than Han Yuanji. Sinister Sparrow heaved a long sigh. He felt that he couldn't see through Ning Fan anymore. There wasn't any batch of outer sect disciples that attracted so much attention and caused so much worry. Sinister Sparrow held his forehead helplessly. His head was swelling. Chapter 61. After a whole day, Ning Fan carefully connected the bones of Bing Ling. Bing Ling had yet to wake up, and Yu Ling was beside the stream, letting Bing Ling rest on her lap, carefully watching over him. Outside the light barrier of the formation, there were nearly 1,000 harmonious spirit ghosts blocking the way. Their cries made Yu Ling shiver. Her expression was complicated as she secretly glanced at Ning Fan, who was sitting cross-legged in the distance. Only then could she feel a little relieved. 3 days later, Ning Fan's injuries were completely healed under the effect of the 3 Void Essence Dawn. At this moment, there was a heavily injured and unconscious black sable on his lap, and his palm was holding a piece of broken black jade. His palm was gently stroking the sable's body. Yu Ling didn't know that Ning Fan liked small animals. It really looks like air hay before. Ning Fan looked at the little black sable, but what appeared in his mind was a simple and honest big black dog. Unfortunately, that big black dog was killed by a young master of the Ning clan in Hai Ning one day. Ning Fan's eyes revealed a rare trace of sadness, but it quickly concealed itself. If one asked the little black sable and the big black dog, which were 2 completely different species, what Ning Fan would say was the look in their eyes. On a dead end, a look with nowhere to run. Because of this look, Ning Fan used a Void Essence Dan and gave it to the little sable, making its injuries much better. A harmonious spirit demonic beast, with my strength, I am qualified to adopt it. He murmured to himself. His voice was very soft, but Yu Ling still heard it. Suddenly, her heart felt extremely unbalanced. She just thought that Ning Fan was kind to her sister, but now, she found that Ning Fan's attitude towards small animals was much better than his attitude towards her. Thinking of the Ning clan, Ning Fan's eyes turned cold, but soon, the coldness faded and turned into a trace of helplessness. Ning clan in Hai Ning. He might go back once in the near future, but the thought of destroying the Ning clan had already faded. If he went back, he would only kill the people who framed him. After all, the Ning clan was also his home. Home was a luxurious word for cultivators. The change of state of mind was actually a kind of sublimation. Cultivators had the world as their home, but it could also be said that they had no home. He stopped thinking about it and looked at the black jade again. He stared at the black jade with a puzzled expression. In his dantian, the yin-yang locket trembled slightly. This was a piece of ancient jade. In Ancient Chaos's memories, it seemed to have been mentioned once. It was called the primordial spirit crystal. Occasionally, there would be ancient immortals who would plant their divine will within it to pass down their cultivation techniques or record their cultivation experiences. This jade stone had some traces of damage, as if it had been split into 2. The reason the Yellow Spring Sable was being chased by the White Bone Devil was most likely because of this jade stone. However, when Ning Fan tried to read the information on the jade with his spirit sense, it was repelled the moment his spirit sense touched the jade. Unable to read. Was it because his divine will was not strong enough, or did he need a special method to read the jade? Ning Fan remained silent. He tried a few other secret techniques that used his spirit sense, but none of them worked. He shook his head. It seemed like his luck wasn't good enough and he couldn't obtain this inheritance. At this moment, the little sable who had been unconscious for 3 days suddenly moved. It turned its body and opened its eyes. It let out a yawn and curled up a few times in Ning Fan's arms. But immediately, its lazy eyes were filled with fear and dread. She found out that she was sleeping in the arms of a strange human and her body was being caressed and played by the human. Stinky man, you are courting death. Her eyes revealed the shame and anger of a woman. It seemed like she wanted to shout and scold Ning Fan. However, it was a pity that she was only a demonic beast. Her cries had become weak beastly cries of, woo woo, and, ao ao. This yellow spring sable was the void fragmentation female demon who fought with Bone Sovereign. At this moment, she revealed a look of disbelief because Ning Fan's hands were too bold. He stroked her back, touched her buttocks, flicked her head, touched her lower abdomen, and drew circles on her chest. Shameless. I am the monarch of Demon Sinister Forest, Mei Ji. How dare you humiliate me like this? Mei Ji revealed a resentful look. Although her injuries had healed, her body was still weak. She couldn't get rid of Ning Fan's hands and could only let him do whatever he wanted. She really thought too highly of herself. No matter how shameless Ning Fan was, he wouldn't fall for a little sable. He wasn't Yuchi. Why would he do all kinds of pleasurable things with kittens and puppies? Huh? You are awake, little black. Ning Fan smiled softly and put down the black jade. He held the sable in his arms and gently stroked her soft fur. All of a sudden, Mei Ji was filled with anger. She was a dignified void fragmentation female demon, but she was called Little Black by this stinky man. What did he think she was? A domestic spirit beast? Mei Ji struggled slightly but couldn't get rid of Ning Fan's arms. Her eyes suddenly fell on the black jade on the ground. Her face lit up with excitement. Emperor's Soul Remnant Scroll. That's great. This item wasn't taken back by Bone Sovereign. At this moment, she regained her senses and began to think. She was running for her life. At that time, she thought that there was no way to escape. In her daze, she saw a grand formation and jumped into it. She didn't know what happened after that. Wasn't she being chased by Bone Sovereign's clone? Why didn't she die? Why didn't she lose the black jade? Could it be that this stinky man in front of her defeated Bone Sovereign? Impossible. Bone Sovereign was an invincible existence in the same realm. How could a peak harmonious spirit clone be defeated by a mere late harmonious spirit Ning Fan? Stinky brat, give me back the black jade and I will spare your life. Mei Ji's threatening eyes looked at Ning Fan. The murderous intent in her eyes was automatically ignored by Ning Fan. Ning Fan was a human. A human couldn't understand the little sable's beastly cry. He was naturally very happy to see the little sable awake. He channeled his magical power through his fingers and gently guided her magical power. Don't move. Your injuries haven't fully healed. Currently, Ning Fan's yin-yang evil veins had completed the spirit ascension of 100 veins. Even if he didn't deliberately use the yin plucking finger, the yin-yang magical power had a trace of bewitching effect. It circulated inside the little sable's body, making her feel more and more strange. After all, she was a woman, wasn't she? Let me go. You are not allowed to touch here. If you dare touch here, I will fight you to the death. Her words of resistance were not understood by Ning Fan. His fingers didn't stop. Gradually, a warm feeling filled her body, making her feel so comfortable that she wanted to sleep. Ning Fan's massage technique was too superb. Her two small front claws gently scratched Ning Fan's arm. Her two legs were comfortably kicking. A trace of pleading gradually appeared in her demonic eyes. Little rascal, let me go. I promise I won't kill you. I beg you. The little sable's body softened and lost the strength to resist. She could only let Ning Fan massage her. The hidden injuries in her body were gradually healed under Ning Fan's magical power. However, at the next moment, something beyond Ning Fan's expectations happened. A warm current flowed out from the little sable's crotch, dirtying Ning Fan's clothes. This little guy, could it be you are a female sable? How come after touching you a few times, you're leaking? Ning Fans didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He pulled open the little sable's legs to take a look. Sure enough, he didn't notice it before. After Ning Fan pulled open her legs to check, every part of her body was exposed. The little sable even had the thought of dying. How could this be? My first time is gone just like that. Humiliation, what a humiliation. She was the dignified Meiji, a void fragmentation third-layer expert, yet she was wantonly played by a harmonious spirit junior. Little Black, you have to be obedient. You mustn't dirty master's clothes. Ning Fan said in a serious tone. Obedient your sister, I will fight you to the death. The exposed Meiji powerlessly bit Ning Fan's finger. She couldn't even bite through the skin like a spirit beast acting coquettishly to its master. Ning Fans did not notice that the moment the little sable woke up, an innate and invisible pressure spread out. The harmonious spirit ghosts that gathered outside the grand formation all fled in fright. It was as if the little sable that was wantonly played by Ning Fans was a terrifying existence to them. Chapter 62. Ning Fan was carrying the small sable like a cold killer in the second region, reaping the lives of ghosts and hunting for sense beads. Unknowingly, the harmonious spirit ghosts were frightened and couldn't exert 20 to 30% of their true strength while carrying the small sable. Ning Fan was slightly puzzled, but he could only attribute this strange phenomenon to the small sable's identity as a yellow spring sable. In 5 days, he had killed more than 300 harmonious spirit ghosts. His separation slayer had advanced to a low-rank high-rank magical treasure, and Ning Fan had harvested 122 harmonious spirit sense beads. He believed that if he could completely refine these sense beads, his spirit sense would easily break through to intermediate gold core realm. And the gold core sword chi he had just comprehended, White Bone Mountain. He was gradually getting more and more proficient in the slaughter. With a point of the sword, the ground under Ning Fan's feet would have shadows of white bones spreading, extremely strange. As for his contribution points, it had reached a terrifying number. 124,954 points. He was ranked 74th on the merit scale of Sinister Sparrow sect. Ning Fan's contribution points had been shocking Sinister Sparrow sect for half a month. At this moment, in the Merit Palace, countless experts were staring at the Merit Steel, not daring to breathe loudly. Look, Ning Fan's contribution points have increased by 200 points consecutively. He must have killed 2 intermediate harmonious spirit ghosts at the same time. Another 1,000 points, another peak harmonious spirit ghost was killed. In half a month, he gained more than 120,000 points and killed at least 300 harmonious spirit ghosts. I'm afraid that Ning Fan wouldn't lose even if he were to fight against a gold core expert. In half a month, Ning Fan's reputation not only spread in Sinister Sparrow sect, but also in the entire U country. Many sects that were eyeing Sinister Sparrow sect received a piece of news. A heaven-defying intermediate harmonious spirit expert named Ning Fan had appeared in Sinister Sparrow sect. In half a month, he killed more than 300 harmonious spirit ghosts. This news was enough to make harmonious spirit experts tremble in fear, and intermediate gold core experts couldn't sit still. Even an intermediate gold core expert wouldn't be able to easily kill so many harmonious spirit ghosts. In order to kill harmonious spirit ghosts like cutting vegetables, one must at least have a peak gold core cultivation. 7 Apricot City's Han Yuanji's disciple and Ning City's Black Devil Ning's grandson. The title of Harmonious Spirit Killer was given to Ning Fans by some gold core old devils. Some old monsters even asserted that Ning Fan was the #1 cultivator below the gold core realm in U country. Old monsters came to Sinister Sparrow sect to see the merit and virtue monument in an endless stream. Under the deterrence of the small sable, even a peak harmonious spirit ghost could only exert the strength of an intermediate harmonious spirit ghost. It was a piece of cake for him to kill them. Killing more than 300 harmonious spirit beasts sounded shocking, but it wasn't difficult to do it in reality. Ning Fan's robe was tattered and stained with blood, making him look like a beggar. After 5 days of killing, he had consumed all the pills that could restore his magical power. But to be cautious, he didn't pursue the ghosts anymore. He returned to the stream Grand Formation and took a bath in the stream. Yu Ling had already set up a fire to roast the immortal fish while waiting for Ning Fan's return. Her sister, Bing Ling, had already woken up. After hearing about how Ning Fan saved her, her gaze towards Ning Fan was still cold, but with a trace of complexity. "Sister, where should we go in the future?" Yu Ling asked the same question again, but this time, her mentality was very different. "I don't know." Bing Ling's mind was in a mess and couldn't give an answer. After returning to the formation, Ning Fan ignored the small sable's dissatisfaction and held her in his arms to take a bath. Kittens and puppies always hate bathing. Ning Fan smiled while looking at the struggling small sable in his arms. He didn't know that the reason why the small sable was struggling wasn't because she hated bathing, but because she didn't want to be with a naked man. "I will never forgive you." The small sable let out a helpless cry. No one could understand her threat. After a bath, they changed into new clothes. 3 people and the sable sat around the fire, eating the roasted fish. Except for Ning Fan, who was completely focused, the 2 women and the sable had a very complicated expression. "When will you return to the cauldron ring?" Ning Fan asked lightly. "Don't you want to see us sisters?" Bing Ling gritted her teeth. If it was before, she wouldn't want to stay with Ning Fan for a second longer, but now, she had a strange feeling of reluctance. "No, but I have decided to enter the 3rd region after my seclusion. There will be gold core ghosts there. At that time, I'm afraid I won't be able to protect myself and take care of you too. You two will be a hindrance. You don't need to explain. You are the master. We will listen to whatever you say." Bing Ling said so, but her heart felt warm. Ning Fan didn't hate the 2 of them, but he cared about them. However, this Ning Fan didn't seem to know how to coax women. If he cared about them, then so be it. Why did he have to say that they were a hindrance? In the bonfire, Ning Fan's calm smile was imprinted in Bing Ling's eyes. Was he an enemy or a master? The 2 girls returned to the cauldron ring and stayed with the 15 harmonious spirit female cultivators. Ning Fan hesitated about how to deal with the 2 girls. He couldn't harden his heart to pluck them. But he wouldn't let the 2 girls go for the time being. He didn't want to expose the fact that he had captured the girls. He didn't want to fall out with Extreme Een Gate for the time being. Although he knew that this matter couldn't be concealed for too long. If I have the strength of a gold core, perhaps I won't be afraid of Extreme Een Gate. He held the small sable in his arms and sat cross-legged. He split the ground with his sword to draw out the earth fire and began to concoct dawn. One by one, he threw the herbs into the Dan fragmentation cauldron. This time, he decided to concoct 200 soul-nourishing dawn at the same time. The early gold core spirit sense had greatly improved his concoction technique. He believed that he could concoct 200 second revolution dawn at the same time. Even if it was the 4th revolution nascent formation Dan, Ning Fan was confident that he could concoct 2 of them at the same time with an extremely high success rate. His skillful concoction technique fell into the eyes of the small sable in his arms and slowly turned into shock. Within 5 days, Ning Fan killed 300 harmonious spirit ghosts. His invincible image had been imprinted in the small sable's mind, but the small sable didn't think that Ning Fan, at such a young age, had already reached the 4th revolution in Dan refinement. Moreover, this brat seemed to have a lot of herbs. His bulging storage pouch even emitted the fragrance of countless thousand-years-old herbs. The small sable subconsciously licked her lips with a fiery gaze. If I consume his herbs, it won't be difficult to remove the seal and restore my cultivation. She took advantage of the time when Ning Fan's concoction to escape from his arms and quietly crawled towards the storage pouch. However, Ning Fan's neck grabbed her and pulled her back. "Little Black, don't make a fuss. If you make a fuss again, I will plant a restrictive spell on you." Ning Fan slightly frowned. "What? If you dare to plant a mental seal on me, I'm so scared." The small sable wanted to say some harsh words, but her body began to tremble. She couldn't imagine how tragic it would be if she, a void fragmentation expert, was planted with a restrictive spell by Ning Fan's. She obediently stuck out her tongue and gently licked the back of Ning Fan's hand like many demon pets to please Ning Fan's. Ning Fan revealed a gentle smile when he saw that the small sable was much more obedient. "That's a good girl. When my spirit sense breaks through to intermediate gold core realm, I will bring you to the third region to meet those gold core ghosts." After hearing Ning Fan's words, the small sable looked like she was about to cry. "Don't. I am only an early harmonious spirit expert. If I enter the third region, I will be minced into mincemeat by the Bone Sovereign's subordinates. Don't go." The dignified void fragmentation princess was so anxious that she was about to cry. The fragrance of pills came out from the Dan fragmentation cauldron. The day of Dan completion was not far away. 3 days later, a tyrannical spirit sense was sent out from the grand formation of mountain and stream trekking, sweeping across 200 li of the forest. All the ghosts that were scanned by the spirit sense revealed a fearful expression. Intermediate gold core. With an intermediate gold core spirit sense, Ning Fan's spirit sense reached the intensity of the black jade for the first time. "This is the remnant volume of the Emperor's Soul?" He was shocked. "You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.